Thanks for joining us this evening. Kailua Neighborhood Board December regular meeting is called to order. And the first order of business on any hybrid meeting is required to be a roll call. Josiah Akau. Travis Council. Present. Amber Granite.
Present online.
Present online. Kellyanne Kobayashi.
Here.
Present online. David Laia. Jade Lau. Present. Mike Lee. Lavani Lipton. Carol Miyashiro. Kayla Morel.
Here.
Present remotely. Kate Ryder.
Here.
Present remotely. Claudine Tomasa.
Present online.
Present remotely. Steve Trecker. Present. Evan Weber. Present. Gary Weller.
Present, and remember Pearl Harbor.
Present online. And yes, 82 years ago. John White.
Present remotely, Chair.
Present remotely. Donna Wong. Jeff Suckernick.
Present remotely.
Present remotely. A lot of remotes tonight. I'm here. We have a quorum with 5 in person and 8 remotely, 13 present, so our quorum is 10. Announcements. Most Kailua Neighborhood Board Committee meetings will be in recess in December and will resume in January. The 2 exceptions are the Homeless and Kailua Subcommittee and the Kailua Water Quality Subcommittee. These 2 will meet in December. Kailua Neighborhood Board regular meeting will be in recess in January and resume on February 1st. And we expect that beginning February 1st, we'll move back to our old stomping ground, the multi-purpose room here at Kailua District Park. The Homeless and Kailua Subcommittee will meet on Sunday, December 10th. That's this Sunday, to assemble welcome home baskets for families entering transitional housing with Family Promise. Please consider volunteering either supplies or your time to help us bring some Christmas joy into our community families. Donations needed include paper towels, toilet paper, laundry detergent, sponge, dish soap, pots and pans, and various toiletries. Please bring donations to to tonight, or please bring them on Sunday to the Homeless Subcommittee Service Project at 1 o'clock at St. Christopher's Episcopal Church on Kainalu Drive. And email Lavani Lipton if there is something on the list that you would like to donate. And we greatly appreciate that. Next order of business, are there any other announcements? Next order of business are reports from Hawaii Police Department and Hawaii Fire Department, HPD. Okay, Honolulu Fire Department.
Good evening. It's Captain Silva with Kailua Fire Station. I'll be going over the statistics for November 23. Structure fires, we had 2 nuisance fires, 2 and activated alarms. With no fire, we had 11. Medical emergencies, we had 87. Motor vehicle collisions with pedestrian, we had 4. Motor vehicle crashes, 5. Mountain rescues, 1. Ocean rescues, 2. The fire safety tips will be in regards to holiday decorations. Ensure decorations are at least 3 feet from heat sources and do not block the exits. If you choose to use a natural tree, ensure it is watered regularly. As trees dry out, they become more and more flammable. Be careful with electrical decorations. Ensure they are used in accordance with the manufacturer instructions. Always turn off Christmas tree lights before leaving home or going to bed. Always keep candles, matches, and lighters securely out of reach of children. Remember to blow out all candles prior to leaving home or going to bed. That's it. Any questions?
Questions tonight for HFD? Online? Anyone in the audience? Any questions for the fire department? Amber Granite.
Mahalo. I just wanted to know if can you tell us the areas of the 4 pedestrian car crashes?
Could you be more specific?
I'm sorry, you said there were 4 car crashes. Can you
Yes.
tell us the area?
I do not have that information, but the statistics I read cover not just our area, but like in Olomana and Channel Lakes and Aikahi. So yeah, I'm not privy to all that information right now.
Do you know where we can find it?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
If we could, we can get that fed back via the mayor's representative. Appreciate it. And Captain Silva, we also appreciate Honolulu Fire Department's volunteerism this holiday season with erecting and taking down the holiday lights in Kailua on Kailua Road. We know that that's something that HFD used to do, and greatly appreciative that you're going to be able to do it again this year.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, we move on to local agency reports. Board of Water Supply, followed by Marine Corps Base Hawaii. Board of Water Supply, Danny Ornelas.
Hi, good evening. Message from the board. So the month of November, there were 5 water main breaks in Kailua. These mains were installed from 1900, 1957, 1956, and 1959. And announcement, we have our 2024 Board of Water calendars. You can get these at the Board of Water office at 630 South Britannia. The calendar features winning posters and poems from last year's contest winners and reminds us the importance of water conservation all year long. You can still enter your contest and submit your poem or artwork to the board by February 28th. More info on the contest can be found at boardofwatersupply.com. Any questions? That's all I have.
Questions for Board of Water Supply? Online? Gary Weller.
Danny, I'd like you to thank Catherine for all the wonderful text messages she sent me of the 2 water breaks that were in my district on Mukapu. They
Yes.
were very, very accurate and very useful. I posted them all on nextdoor.com, and it really helped my neighbors avoid the incident. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll let her know.
Any other questions in the audience? All right, Board of Water Supply crews really are the best in the business, in my opinion, in quickly and professionally repairing water main breaks. 5 in 1 month is a lot, but they were all repaired very, very expeditiously and professionally, and that is appreciated. Now we look forward to our 50% increase in water bills over the next 5 years so that we can do more planned replacements of pipes, hopefully before they break.
Mhm.
Okay, Marine
Thank you.
Corps Base Hawaii. Colonel Bevins on Pearl Harbor Day.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am Colonel Bevan, the Commander of Marine Corps Base Hawaii. in just a moment, I'm going to let Major Fox brief some details on the ground EA that we'll be rolling out, a comment period shortly after the holidays, just to make sure everybody's tracking and has the details so you can go in and comment on it. But it will open up right after Christmas, so we just want to kind of give you a heads up so you can start thinking about it. But before I bring them up, I just want to provide a little bit of an update for those of you that may not have been tracking some of the press lately with respect to the P8 mishap that we had 2 weeks ago last Monday. We were able to bring it out of the water successfully over the weekend. It is in its spot where it will be until NavAir makes a final determination. We were able to keep the airfield closed. I kept it closed until today. So we had divers from DLNR, NOAA, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife on scene to take a look and start making assessments of the coral. Obviously, they've done a lot of data gathering over the last couple of days. It'll take some time to actually compile and kind of come up with a report and an assessment. But I think we're going to be able to get some pretty good data. Recently, U.S. Fish and Wildlife had, before the mishap, had completed a survey of the coral in the bay there. The data hadn't been aggregated and compiled yet, but because of the recency of it, I think we're going to have a really clear picture of what things looked like before the mishap and what they looked like after the mishaps. Then we can kind of figure out, where we go from here. I'll tell you that, sometimes the inter-service relationship can get a little awkward, right? So it's a Navy aircraft and Navy mishap, but it's on Marine Corps base, and I've got some oversight responsibilities and roles that I look forward to. But it will definitely be one of those things where, I will have to stay engaged and work through Navy chain for some things, but certainly looking forward to again after that. And I just want to plug some of your elected leaders and state officials. Liz Galvez, for example, from the HERE office, was in my emergency operations center every day for my commander's update briefing daily that we did. Again, representation from everybody, and just very active and hands-on. Representative Natalia Hussey-Burdick and Lisa Martin, Senator Keo Kalole, Senator Lee. We had numerous conversations. I know Ms. Esther Kana reached out to some of my staff as well. So to the degree that we could communicate with leadership, we did, recognizing there's difference between, Navy had the lead because it's their mishap, their aircraft, but we know we owe leadership some communication. So I just wanted to plug some of your elected leadership. They were heavily engaged, and we communicated to the degree that we could. But I think at the spot we're in right now, we're in a pretty good position. But now we need to characterize the nature of the coral and figure out next steps moving forward. And that'll be something that we'll continue to get after. So if there's no questions with respect to the P8 specifically, I'll bring up Major Fox, and we can talk about the EA that will be coming up shortly. Sure.
Any questions regarding the P8? Gary Weller?
I wanted to thank you very much for all the information that the base gave me. I reposted it on Nextdoor. I kept up with all the pictures and the videos and the newscast. I wanted you to know that in Kailua, almost 1,000 people read those postings that I did and kept acknowledged of everything that was going on. And I want to thank you for all the information.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. Again, my goal is to, tell what I can to who I can, right? And sometimes we're limited. There's investigations that are ongoing and underway, and those things will take time. So we need to be sensitive sometimes. But I appreciate the support, and just know, particularly from your elected leaders, we communicate frequently, and your elected leaders were heavily engaged. So thank you.
One or two more questions. Chuck Prentice?
Yes, I wanted to ask, is there a preliminary accident report available at this time?
No, and that will probably take some time. The investigation, I know they're finishing, some of the investigatory work with respect to potentially what happened. Certainly, our ComStrat was heavily involved in photography initially afterwards. And so they'll go back and dig in and start to compile. And some of it takes time, the structural engineers and some folks, on the aircraft side, because they have to look at everything and make a determination of, mechanical and human and weather and all those things that might go into it. So my guess is it would be 6 months or longer before something definitive comes out.
Okay, well, I think there will be a lot of people waiting for that, to see that.
Travis Council?
Thank you, Commander. Just a quick note, I think in some of the news articles, it's talked about the state is unlikely to have any fines for this mishap, but it sounds from at least your description and your comments tonight that corrective nature for the coral and the impact there is a priority and is something that you guys are taking seriously.
No, it is. And there have some things that have been done already. So, it was obviously the aircraft, but then also, we put 3 layers of boom in the water because initially in an instant, you don't know what's coming next, right? And so, my waterfront operations team had boats moving within minutes of it. And so we had an initial first boom, the aircraft completely encircled in under 30 minutes. But then we added a second layer of boom and a third layer of boom. And before we did defueling operations, before we started extrication of the plane from the water, we put boom around Coconut Island as well. But, particularly when you have to put anchors in the water to anchor the boom so it doesn't get pushed off by tide or wind, that can also cause some damage. So those are also things that we have to look at to make sure we understand where all those things are. And over the last couple of days, the Navy with Mobile Dive Salvage Unit 1 came out to help DLNR with, some coral had been knocked over and could be repositioned. Some coral could, be epoxy back into place. But obviously, we need the experts to tell us about some of the damage that's more severe and to figure out, okay, what does the long-term plan look like? And those are things where I certainly defer to the experts, but I have an oversight role and be very interested in what that looks like. So I think there's more to follow is how we characterize that.
Oh, it was very fortunate that the aircraft remained intact and wasn't leaking, and that enabled you to take your time to float it and safely get it to minimize damage to the environment. And that deliberate approach is appreciated. Thank you, Colonel. Major Jordan Fox.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to apologize for being absent last month. We were celebrating the 248th birthday of the Marine Corps downtown, so I apologize for that. Okay, so the Ground Force Modernization EA. Okay, it is not out yet. However, taking your feedback from the home basing EA last year or in 2021, what we've done is built a website. So available to the community, the board members, elected leaders ahead of time are fact sheets and frequently asked questions, and then also a general overview of the NEPA process. However, the public comment period opens on December 26th, 2023. From there, you have 30 days to make comments. There's instructions on the website. And also on 26th December will be the publishing of the draft EA for your review. So we've done a little bit of a work ahead of time to give you some information to make it a well-informed decision and give us some feedback on that. So paying any questions, that's all I've got for tonight.
Kailua Neighborhood Board will be unable to provide feedback because our next meeting is February 1st. But
right, you can still you can write comments or you can email me and then I'll get your comments and stuff in. However you want to do it.
Yeah, we won't meet the January deadline, but there could be some comments, and we appreciate the heads up and access to the website.
Yeah, and I'll shoot you the link and everything's there. We can post on that Google Drive or whatever. Okay.
Mahalo. Any questions, Donna Wong?
So following the NEPA process, since we're not able to make your deadline, would our comments submitted late be considered?
I don't think so. So we'll have December 26th, 30 days post that. So we're now January 24th, 25th. So it's the 30 days required by law that we give to the state. So.
Well, let me ask a question. December 26th is not a very businesslike day to commence. Is there any possibility that the start of the comment period, and maybe there's no way to change it, but if the start of the comment period were after New Year's, January 5th or something like that, then people might be more focused on it, coming back from holiday travel and so on. Coincidentally, that would allow the Kailua Neighborhood Board to provide input. I don't know how hard that is, but just something to think about.
Right, I don't disagree with you. It's just kind of how it fell out in the process. We could have started it before the holidays. We didn't like that, so we started immediately after, and that's why we're doing a lot of the work ahead of time, giving fact sheets, frequently asked questions, overview the process. So we're giving you a lot of the information that's contained in the EA ahead of time, but much of the analysis of the impacts or lack thereof will be in the EA. So there's 30 days. That's kind of what we got.
We looked at it, by the way, because of the holidays, but because of the timing on the backside. If we don't start it then, we don't have enough time on the backside to complete the work, and it pushes off some other things. And we tried to see if we could get it done before the holidays, and just on the amount of time it took to get things prepared, But yeah, we were sensitive to the holiday period. And we looked at the calendar closely to see if we could start it after, but sometime after the first, so whatever that kind of the first business day. But the timeline couldn't do it, which is why we've already built the website and we already put the products out there so folks can look at it now. And I want to characterize, everybody can comment. Now the board may not have met, but your comments are still, can be submitted so we can capture the comments. But yeah, agreed that the timing doesn't work from a board perspective.
Right. Any comments would be just individual comments.
Yes, sir.
Okay, understand.
Bill.
David Laya.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to kind of switch the subject back to the coconut rhinoceros beetle, because there's been some clear history that the beetle itself has been brought in through military activities, and that it's continuing to spread. And I know this is not in your geographic jurisdiction because most of the activity is happening in the Pearl Harbor, Cunha area. But it's still something I think I would like to very much make you aware of, that this is a concern within the Kailua district and other districts throughout the islands. We do see that the outbreak is spreading. It's aggressive. It's eating a lot of our native plants and ulu and palo and a lot of very valuable plants, not just the coconut tree. And as this beetle continues to proliferate, its populations are going to continue to grow, and there will be a devastation occurring into our agricultural community and everything that we know today. So I hope that the military is stepping up to provide resources to address the issue now. I'm not seeing it. I've heard that the DoD is coming in with some funding. And so I definitely want to say thank you for doing that. But I think a lot more needs to be done a lot sooner at this time. And so I'd like just to urge you to help us put some focus on that statewide or island-wide. And just want you to just be aware of that is a very, very big concern on our part.
Yeah, no. So thank you for that. And it's not just that. There's other invasive species, but right. I mean, the fire ants, some of these other things that are going. I do meet with all the regional commanders at least once a month. So it is something we can bring up in topic conversation and just be as synced up as we can to figure out what we do to get after it. So thank you for that, and we'll take a note, and I'll bring it up at my next meeting with the other commanders. So thank you.
No, we appreciate that. I know the military has worked hard on keeping Guam round tree snakes out of Hawaii too. It's just part of what comes with it, and this is a little bit of an invasive crisis that we're facing together with the little fire ants. All right. A couple more questions. Sorry, Kate Ryder.
Hi, yeah, to build off of that, I'm on the base quite a bit, and there's right by the main gate as you're leaving, there's that big green sign that has all the safety notices. And so I just was wondering if it was possible to have like environmental messages on those signs as well. I know a lot of military members are, new to Hawaii, and so maybe some reminders about staying away from turtles. Right now it's seabird fallout season, and I did find a shearwater, the Waukani, that had been unfortunately hit by a car on base. And I know it's not isolated to base at all. This is, a statewide issue as these birds are fledging and starting to learn how to fly. But the base does have a whole lot of really bright lights. And so letting residents know to be really careful when they're driving and keep an eye out for those birds, because there is a rehab facility right outside the gate at Feather and Fur Animal Hospital. So just asking to, I know that you do a lot of work, but also, to try to help, it's just one way I was kind of thinking of maybe to help spread some environmental knowledge and ideas on the base and to the base members. And then kind of on a slightly, to go back to the EA topic is, I had a question of whether there is any plan to have an overall EA done for the cumulative impacts of all the building that's happened over the past decade on the base, because I have noticed significant changes, and I feel like each of these EAs are kind of piecemeal, and each one finds that there's no significant impact because individually they don't really have a significant impact. But I'm seeing just as, you know, I don't know, I'm not doing the analysis, but just as a casual person who spends a lot of time there, that there is a significantly large number of our base, the amount of our base that has been paved over, and, you know, major changes have happened. And so just kind of something I've brought up before of just having this kind of a cumulative impact study done to see kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So one, if you come on my base right now, the front sign talks about shear water fallout.
Oh, it does, yay!
If you came on during green turtle nesting, we talked about that. So the sign at our gate talks about all those environmental things. And right now it says about turning down lights as well. So we do put that there. I brief at all of what we call new arrivals orientation. So everybody that's new to Hawaii, you know, we have about a half day worth of training that we do, and I brief every single one. And the first thing I brief about is kind of the sacred nature of the peninsula in which they are now standing, right? And so it gives me an opportunity to talk about the peninsula from a cultural, environmental, and a historical perspective, you know, to the new members who are coming out, and a lot of them have not been out here before. So those are things that we address, and we bring everybody in, you know, across the base to talk about some of these things. So certainly your comment about, you know, the outbound sign, that's certainly something we consider, but we do use our marquee both on base, but also the front base to talk about, you know, some of these particularly sensitive environmental periods in time that we're in. And it does talk about, you know, turning down lights and those types of things. So thank you for that. You know, with respect to the, you know, consolidated EA, yeah, there have been a lot of changes on that base, and it's a hard problem. And December 7th is a perfect time to talk about it, right? Because we have to honor our history and preserve it. And we spend a lot of time and effort when we do make a change, mitigating steps. So one of the, you know, we agreed to 12 mitigating steps with the state historical division before we were able to come to agreement to approve for the tear down of one of the buildings that will happen, you know, sometime over the next 5 years. And so anytime we do have to do something like that, you know, we try very, very hard to come up with something that's agreeable to either commemorate the history or to preserve something else. But it's also true that we have to posture this base for the future, whether it's a climatological crisis, whether it's a, you know, a crisis of man's doing, you know, because if there is another December 7th, we have to be better prepared than we were December 7th, 1941. And so that's the challenge of preserving this history and the culture and the environment, but also posturing the base for the next thing. And again, and it's not just adversary threats, right? It's weather threats. It's rising seas. It's all these things. So yeah, it's something we take very seriously and we look very, very hard at, but fair point. And I love history. So, you know, I live in a house built in 1941 and I want to preserve it. But that has single pane windows, which are not energy efficient and which is hard to heat and cool and all those things. But so just finding that balance is just healthy tension. But thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. It's something we'll look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've got two more. Donna Wong.
Can you give us some information on the expanding of the hours and the range at the Ulupau Freighter Weapons Training Range?
Yes, there was a recent bulletin passed by the U.S. Army, kind of oversees all of the ranges on Oahu. Now the hours are from, I think, wherever in the morning till 2 a.m. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to shoot at those hours. Those are just the hours that are authorized for firing. If there are any of those weird hours that come across, I'll be sure to pass that information to the board ahead of time.
So this notice is from the Army Corps.
Right. Yep.
And so you're expanding also the area going out into the ocean?
Go ahead.
No, and if you are, how much?
I'll have to look and get you an answer on that. I don't have it with me right now.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate knowing that, how much you're going to expand. And it says here that the various methods to let voters know or red flags are up or
Right.
beacons, is that existing now?
Yes, those safety measures do exist now. From what I understand, with the hour change, some of the rules or some of the notifications that go out to mariners and airmen and swimmers and all that stuff are going to have to be increased as well. So I'll just take a look at that and then get you a better answer.
Yeah, that would be a real concern is how does the average voter know? You know, you can change on paper the range,
Right.
but how's the voter going to know that got changed, and how are they going to know the red flags or the beacons, what they really mean?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So I'll have to look at that process and kind of what that information really means, and I'll get back to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what are the hours now?
Does it say in the sheet?
It says 6 to 2. Well, it's 6 to 2 is highlighted, so I don't know if that's the new hours.
That's accurate. That's the new one. Yep.
That's the new hours.
Right.
So what are the existing hours?
I don't know. I want to say 10 p.m., but I don't want to speculate.
Oh, so
either.
you're going to 2 a.m.
Right. So that's just hours authorized. Now, does that mean we're going to shoot at 2 a.m.? I don't know. But if we do, I'll be sure to give you guys a heads up ahead of time.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, local notice to mariners is how that gets promulgated. Amber Granite.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, and I appreciate that you said when you're talking about doing an orientation for, new members that have come to Hawaii. I work for also the Women, Infant, and Children program. So I'm just wondering if that's something that you mentioned to new members. We've noticed this is the season, I realize, for PCSing, but this is also the season of a lot of pregnancies happening. So I was just wondering if that's something that you talk about, or if that's something that you'd like me to come on the base to talk about. And then, sorry, second part is we used to do services out of your chapel. However, the base chaplain said that anything that the Marines do will trump me coming to the chapel to provide WIC services. So I wouldn't be able to build a schedule, because if you trump my coming to the base to use the chapel for services, I wouldn't be able to come. So I'm just wondering if you have another area that I could use to do services on the base, that I wouldn't be told the week before that I can't come.
Yeah, so a couple things. So our family advocacy program does come and brief for the new arrivals orientation. I can't speak whether or not they specifically mention WIC, but that's certainly something that we can take back and make sure that's something that folks are informed about. With respect to the chapel, so it used to be that you had to have a schedule 30 days in advance. Probably a couple months ago now, I believe Chaplain Gormley is probably who you deal with at the chapel. We've shortened that down to 2 weeks. So if it's on the schedule, we require 2 weeks notice before we bump anybody. And we try not to do that, by the way. It's just there are times where, we only have so many places where we can get so many Marines in one spot. And a lot of the training that they do in that place is mandatory training on a variety of topics. And so there are times where, because we have units in the Philippines and Australia, we bring them back and we only have a certain window that they can get this training done. But I have condensed that from 4 weeks down to 2 weeks. So that should give you, and not just you, but other folks who are wanting to use the chapel as well, a little more clarity and a little more fidelity on the schedule. There is another place on base that we are working at some options to figure out if we can use with a little more regularity than we do right now. There are some limitations just based on the age of the building, as I talked about, some of the old infrastructure, our ability to change air filters and some of those other things. But you're not the only one who has concerns about being able to have some confidence in the schedule that is being built. But it should be better than it was. Should be down to 2 weeks. If you've got something on the calendar inside of 2 weeks, you won't get bumped for that. And we're continuing to move forward to try and give you a little more.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of spouses that don't have transportation because their spouse takes the car to work. So if they get bumped off the schedule, I mean, we have some capability to do remote services, but we need at least one in person during the year. So if they get bumped, then they don't have, when we move their appointment out like weeks later. So yeah, if you could get either get me another space so that we can service your pregnant spouses or participants, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for what you do, by the way. And I'll tell you that, the size of the space needed matters, right? I mean, if you're talking about, I need a place for 5 people, that's a whole lot easier to accommodate than, hey, I need a place for 50 people, right? So some of it is what kind of space do you actually need for the event that that's coming up. But thank you for what you do, and certainly we can try and figure out how we help you a little better.
All right. Gary Weller.
Hi. There's two studies that every military base has to have. One is a natural resource study, and the other one I think is a cultural study. Can I get copies of those two PDFs, and when were they last done, and when do they need to be updated?
Yeah, thanks. So I'll Jordan write that down, and we'll take a look at that. Off the top of my head, I don't know when they were last done, but we'll certainly get that to you, and we'll take a look at it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Well, Bevan, thank you very much on this busy, momentous day of sharing your time with us this evening and providing the comprehensive answers. Next order of business are resident and community concerns. Any questions, concerns, recommendations? Yes, sir. If you wouldn't mind using the microphone so that it can be recorded on Olelo.
Hey, my name is Jared. Been living here in Kailua for a little over a year now. Honestly, it's been great. Unfortunately, I'd say the past week, I live across the street from Kailua Beach Park. Feel terrible saying this. I believe everyone has the right to have a home, live somewhere safe. And unfortunately, the homeless population does seem to be increasing. There are a number of individuals that have decided to camp out at the beach park, maybe about a block away from the boat dock, where, police aren't going to kick them out, right? Like, they've been there for about a week. Unfortunately, they've been very aggressive. I was threatened a couple days ago. There is a man with a whip. He loves this whip. He will not put the whip down. He will whip trees and the sidewalk for 12 hours a day. I went outside a couple days ago, asked him if he can go somewhere a little quieter, not in front of the homes, not in front of children riding their bikes home from school. His reaction was very abrasive, threatened me, flipped his whip in my face, told me to go back where I came from. And I was like, okay, whatever. Walked home, called the police, had a 5-minute hold time with 911 once the dispatcher picked up. This was honestly the most awkward conversation I've ever had with a dispatcher. He started complaining, saying he's received a bunch of calls all day, told me to go back outside and wait for the police. I told him that was inappropriate because there was a man with a weapon. Dispatcher continued to complain to me about the calls he'd been receiving all day, and that was it. Police didn't come. Had neighbors call, same thing. Police dispatchers yelling at them, telling them they're being too sensitive. And today, now there's a group of like 6 of them out there. If anyone has any suggestions, any resources for these people, love to hear it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We do have an individual motion proposed later on in our agenda with regard to camping. Other resident concerns? Yes, sir. If you could use the microphone, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Steve Cordell. Wife and I moved to Kailua to Enchanted Lake 2.5 years ago. My daughter's family with 2 grandchildren, my son's family also with 2 grandchildren, live in Kailua, and I consider Kailua paradise. And Kailua Beach Park be the Garden of Eden. My son lives right down from Buzzards, right across from the park, and I jog through the park before daylight 5 days out of most weeks. I observed right before the November board meeting a couple of homeless guys camping and sleeping in the park in makeshift shelters. I talked to a representative from Parks and Rec. I talked to a policeman whom I had called. I was disheartened to see the finger pointing well, I can't do anything until another party takes a certain action, and well, I can't do anything until someone else takes a certain action. And guess what? They finally pointed to the Kailua Neighborhood Board. And thus I attended the November meeting simply to listen. I met Mr. Hicks and promised I'd write him an email of what I had observed, with whom I had spoken, and a photograph I had taken. And as a result of my reaching out, I was given the opportunity to speak here for 3 minutes, and that's all I'm going to do. From early November to today, the problem has worsened. Allow me to relay incidents of this week. This very morning, there were no less than 5 separate campsites in the beach park, and I took 5 pictures. Though it was mid-morning, the people were in the same spot before 5 a.m. because that's when I jog, well before light. And just as they had been there on other days when I habitually jogged through the park. On Tuesday of this week, one of them had a fire pit and an open fire going in the park well before daylight. On that same Tuesday, my daughter-in-law's security camera captured what looked to be a homeless guy trespassing in her driveway only feet away from one of these encampments. Nothing to be proved as to what his intentions were. But what is certain is that Kailua Beach Park is not a homeless shelter, and neither is it a designated campground for sleeping, camping, or temporary shelters. If I understand the law, these actions are against the law. And in my view, everyone is losing here. Those in charge of safety, beauty, maintenance, and enforcement are all losing. Even the homeless are losing in that their plight is being ignored and not addressed. And why would they leave the park if not told to do so? Ladies and gentlemen of the board, in my humble opinion, a clear and resounding message needs to be directed toward authorities that the Kailua Neighborhood Board sees a clear and present danger in ignoring a clear breach of the law. This board should insist on the enforcement of laws protecting the park grounds, its visitors, and the citizens of Kailua. Thank you very much.
Mahalo. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, new friends. My name is Laura, not to sound like a broken record after everybody else already spoke, but do just want to reiterate how uneasy I've become living in Kailua with the amount of homeless people living at Kailua Beach Park. It's gotten to the point where they're like hammering things into the ground and setting up full-time living there. There are vans that steal the cones from nearby construction sites and block off their spots. So if they leave, they have a place to come back to. They are incredibly aggressive. My mailbox is like right across the street from where they live, and I'm real uneasy about checking my mail after dark, or even just my mail being missing, which has been a problem where we live as well. So I know it's been said before, but I really just feel like there's a lot of young people that live on my lane, and it's getting to the point where like Kailua doesn't feel as safe as it felt a year ago. And that just like super bums me out. I know I look tough, but I am not tough. And I don't want to be afraid to like go for a walk on the bike path. And it really is a concern. There are people that throw weapons against trees and have aggressive dogs that they have off leash. And you do see kids riding around, and it's starting to like not feel great. And I don't love that. I have personally called the cops 3 times for the same thing. They've hung up on me before. And just say, we'll send someone out. I literally, where my house is, I can stare at these people all day off my deck. Nobody ever comes out. So I don't know if it's lip service or if they're just like sick of hearing about it, but it's super defeating to feel like you're not supported when that's happening. That's sort of that little bit. And then the second little bit real quickly, I've noticed because of all the cars parking at the beach park, they're blocking the like one fire hydrant that's like accessible to our home in our street. And we have called and reported that before. No one has ever come out and done anything about it. And obviously with all the fire danger everywhere, it's super concerning to me that that's not taken more seriously, even if it's just giving tickets or asking people to move. it's just really disheartening that I feel like the police department hasn't done anything to like make me feel safe where I live. So, yeah, thanks.
Is this the street that kind of is a spur at the exit of the park?
Yeah, so like if you're driving to go into Lanakai, it's like the last little lane right before you get to the stop sign to take a left to go into Lanakai.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other resident community concerns? Travis Council?
So this is more of a personal story and a reminder of everyone to share the road with aloha, especially during the holiday seasons when there's a lot of people moving around. Last Tuesday, I was riding my bicycle up near Castle Medical Center and was shot at by a vehicle that went by me by a pellet gun. Proceeded to call the police and report that the vehicle returned two more times, shooting at me with a pellet gun, hitting me, causing welts on my arm and side. I filed a police report. This is my profession, is cycling advocacy, so quite nerve-wracking to see this happen in our community. Then in talking to other members of the public, heard of several other incidences of this occurring, including water bottles being thrown at people walking and running and biking, as well as there was unfortunately a death on the Big Island of somebody who intentionally hit a cyclist to quote unquote teach them a lesson for going slow. This is incredibly close to me. I bike a lot of places. Like I mentioned, I'm the executive director of the Hawaii Bicycling League. I'm also a person. We're all people. I want to remind everybody to share the road. Everyone has every right to be on our roadways, walking, biking, rolling, etc. And also, if something like this does occur to you, I strongly encourage you to report this to the police. Even if some action is not immediately taken then due to not having all the information, at least it's recorded. This is data we track at our organization and helps in our advocacy efforts. So thankfully I am all right, but also a message to the public to please share the road with everyone. Thank you.
So two incidences involving the same vehicle with pellet guns, which if a pellet hit you in an eye, ear, other vital organ. Yeah.
Let alone the danger of crashing while you're figuring out what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're with us in one piece. Other any other community concerns this evening? John White.
Thank you, Chair. I got two I want to address. One, I had a question for the woman that just spoke about Kailua Beach Park. What are examples of aggression that these people are showing? And even the dogs too, do they just look aggressive or are they chasing people? And then secondly, I wanted to address something in the chat about no parking signs on Lanikai Loop. I don't agree with that. The Department of Transportation set up these roads a certain way when the town was planned, and it's been working great. I think people got to take away their personal conflict of not wanting people to park in front of their house. I live next to a park. People come to the park. I don't hamper them from parking and enjoying the park, and in that Lanikai's case, the beach. So if I get clarification on those two, we can talk about those issues if needed. Thank you.
Is there anything you can add, ma'am?
Yeah, just the forms of aggression that I personally have witnessed is women walking their dogs and the homeless population, or at least this one particular blue van. The man like will follow them along the bike path and be like, "Hey, honey, what are you doing? What's going on?" Very just like nothing a woman walking her dog wants to experience. They've also, anytime someone gets close to them, there is another individual that is in Kailua Beach Park very often in a similar space, but doesn't cause any problems whatsoever. They've had altercations just because this blue band group of people. They blast their music all night till 2 o'clock in the morning. You ask them to stop. They act like you're in the wrong for asking them to not play music at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's just, there's a vacation rental in front of our house, and we've literally seen them walk like in a giant loop to not like avoid being close to these people because they have small kids. So it's just becoming like huge issue, I think. Is that helpful? Answer the question?
Thank you.
Okay, Jade Lau.
John, to add on to the statement about the dogs, I used to walk Kailua Beach every morning. It's gotten rough now that it's dark and cold that early, but there are increasing number of homeless individuals that have dogs not on leashes, that when the dogs come charging, they're barking, they're growling, they're baring teeth. I'm pretty solid with dogs. I'm one of the few people on the beach that when Diesel is running amok can get Diesel under control. So I'm not generally afraid of dogs unless they're growling and looking aggressive. And it seems that more and more closer to boat ramp is becoming the encampment area. And it's starting to look like Waimanalo did 10 years ago. So it is an issue of concern.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, sir.
Is this on? Hello. Hey, how's it? Bernard Grainer, lifelong Kailua resident. Change of subject, even though I have a lot to share about the house listing. I just wanted to point out before the legislation meets, my uncle here, Randall Hugh, he spent the last 4 years of his retirement investigating the increase in property taxes. He has folders, he has really good data. I'd really like for that not to go to waste. There does not seem to be any method to the madness of property tax raising in this state. There does not seem to be any system, any logic to it. The nearest I can come up with is that folks are like looking on Zillow at house sales to people from the mainland and overseas, and then just raising the prices. What they're not taking into account is hundreds of thousands of dollars in my neighborhood in Kailua that it would take to get a house up to that market value, sellable, to make it sellable. Yeah. And for legislation, there's models out there. Like the state of New York has some of the highest property taxes in the country, if not the highest. But they have a system. Once every 10 years, they have a training on a Saturday, and it's frequently police officers, firemen, school teachers that go to the training, and they get paid to go door to door with a form. You can refuse to get your property assessed, but it's something. And so when someone says, why did you raise the prices? We have a system. Here's the form. Somebody looked at your property. There's just nothing like that here. And the raises, they just seem arbitrary and pretty ridiculous. And this man has come to this meeting every single month for for a long time. You all know it. He never talks on the mic, so if you watch on Olelo, you can't hear what he's saying, but they shouldn't go to waste. 4 years of his retirement has been put into this. Thank you.
Mahalo. We have a presentation this evening from the Real Property Assessment Division. And as you might be aware, this neighborhood board passed a resolution asking for more clarification on what appear to be anomalies in the assessments. And so we're all eager to hear what the presentation is this evening. Other resident community concerns? All right, thank you very much. We move on to the mayor and governor's reports, starting with Mayor Rick Lanciardi's representative. We have Jim Ireland online.
No,
We have Shane Enright.
Yes.
Shane.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. Director Island wasn't able to make it this evening. Actually, the first issue that I have to address, we were asked if CORE from the department I actually work for could make its way out to Kailua Beach Park. CORE is, if you're not familiar, it's a program started a few years ago to engage with homeless. There's no enforcement capabilities for them, but they go out into the community and they engage. They try to work up relations with the homeless to build trust. And it's helped in places like Chinatown. We've gone Waikiki, Waipahu. We have done some outreach in Kailua before. And so the question was, when can CORE make its way out to Kailua Beach Park? And the answer I received back was within the next month. So I would hope by the next meeting I could have a report for you on CORE's outreach to that area. Though I just want to be clear, they can't move anybody or ask them to leave. Kapa'a Quarry Road, again, as always, they say that work has commenced in mid-November and that it's proceeding as long as they have the resources available. So I hope it is being trimmed out there. The next one was the berm opening, a question about the testing of the quality of the water there. And it was not tested. The answer I received because it was not required as part of the regulatory permit. So please let me know if you have any further questions about that. Chair, I believe you were given the MOU between Alexander and Baldwin in the Akahi Shopping Center. If not, let me know and I can email it to yourself or to whoever that should go to. But the MOU we got for you folks and was handed over to the neighborhood board. DPR is looking still into the anti-vandalism hand soap dispensaries. I know that's always a topic, the beach parks, the bathrooms, trying to get soap into the bathrooms. And there's been issue with people breaking them and stealing them and using them to wash their clothes and all that. So they are looking into those anti-vandalism hand soap dispensaries, which was mentioned in the last meeting. And the last one that I have is HPD followed up with the number of vacancies that they have, and they reported to have 17, and that covers from Kailua all the way up to Kahuku, 17 vacancies. And that is what I have on my report for you all tonight. Open to questions.
Let me just ask one for clarification.
Okay.
I think I heard you say that when people are camping in the beach park, I think the comment was you can't ask them to leave. Did I hear that correctly?
So CORE. So my department.
Okay, CORE.
Yeah, that I work for.
Because of the way CORE operates, I
They have
understand.
no enforcement capabilities.
Yep,
They're
yep,
not like
got it.
police. They don't have weapons. They don't have handcuffs. They just go out and build a rapport with the homeless to try to eventually get them into shelters.
Absolutely, absolutely. Got it. That makes sense. Thank you. Questions? David Laya.
Last month, we came together and talked about the new showers that were installed at Sandy Beach and other beaches that do not have a shutoff valve, and water, unfortunately, just leaks out of the shower and we can't shut it off. So we're looking at all this water just going into the sidewalk and nobody's able to shut it off. So we'd like very much to do the right thing and have a shower that you can turn off. The second thing relative to that was the showers that we currently have are just little trickles of water. They're just little trickles of water. So somehow somebody made the decision that, hey, we can save some water and save some money here by putting in a shower that requires us to take 3 times as long of a shower to get a similar shower. And we're barely getting any water coming out of the sprinkles. So we're asking for the shower pressure to be increased, but it just seems like so common sense that you would have the ability to shut it off because the shower heads and the shower system that they installed it's already breaking down, so water is just pouring onto the sidewalk and nobody can do anything about it. So that's, to me, something that we should be able to address right away.
Yes, I do remember this concern. I'm so sorry I don't have a good answer for you tonight, but I will ask for next time on that, the shut-off valve and heavier flow for the water. Sorry.
Levani Lipton.
Aloha, Shane. So I was asked if DTS has some type of holiday schedule for the work that's being done at the Kalapawai roundabout, because this is a very busy season. And so we're wondering are they going to put a pause? Are they going to have different hours to accommodate if there's increased traffic during the holiday season? That was one question. And then the second question I had is if there's 17 vacancies, what is the city doing to try to fill those vacancies? Are there going to be some incentives? Are they going to try to, get a robust set of new recruits for HPD? Because this is obviously a big challenge and we see the outcomes, right? It's just reverberating in lots of different areas. So I'm wondering, what are they going to do to try to fill that? What is the plan? Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair.
The first part regarding construction, Kelly Akasaki of DTS, I think might be able to answer that. Go ahead, Kelly.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Kelly Akasaki again from DTS. So we have sent a notice with a map to some of the representatives in the area, as well as the Lanikai Association and also Chair Hicks. The contractor has finished phase 3. So I just want to share some photos with you of phase 3 and what it looks like. Let me know if you can see it. This is phase 3. We have a brand new sidewalk on this side coming in from Amoy. The roadway is paved. What we've asked them to, you can see there's a huge grade difference from the old existing pavement down to the new pavement, but we do have 10 feet wide. So the contractor is giving a break to the community. They are pulling off most of their crew to do any major construction in the area until after the holidays in the beginning of January. So beginning of January, they will jump to this side of the beach center side and start phase 4. This means that as of close of business tomorrow, this roadway here will be open, but only to go into the Lanikai area. So that will help all the residents into Ku'ukama and some of those that have been affected by the detours. I do want to, what we did put up on the website is this photo, and this is what we shared with the other residents. So it's just kind of a map that shows right now with the barricades here, you can still allow to come in, make the right to go into Lanikai. There is one section that I cannot open right now, and it's right here for this left turn to get back around to Kalapawai Market. There is another grade difference here, and I cannot meet that match. It's a little bit too steep for us to get cars to come in through this one here until we finish this portion, which I don't believe in until phase 7 or 8. So phase 4 will be this area here coming into Amoy, into the beach center. Phase 5 is the huge corner where all the kayaks and pedestrians walk. They will have all brand new sidewalk in that area. 6, 7, and 8 is going to be Kalakale. What you have seen out there in the past couple of days is the crew doing potholing. So phase 3, which should have been pretty simple, was about 2 months extra because of shallow utilities. What we found was a gas line that was maybe 13 inches only below the pavement, as well as a Kiko line that was about maybe 13 or 14 inches below. So both of these laterals were not on any utility plans. So once we hit it or find it, we have to stop work until the utility companies can tell us what to do with it. When we found the gas line, we finally had the plan to lower and relocate the gas line. While they were relocating the gas line, we unfortunately found 2 EV Kapuna. So once EV Kapuna is fine, everyone is shut down. They're not allowed to do any work, no digging until the EV is properly taken care of. So that was about a month of the delays. So this puts us into holiday season. We'll give everybody in the community a break, give you some time to use the beach center, access to both sides. This means the left turn here in the first driveway will be open. So we've been working with A and B to help them here. And then come January, we will start phase 4 again. Are there any questions?
Mahalo. Travis Council.
Just really quick to reiterate what you're saying, if you're coming down Kailua Road towards Kailua Beach, you will only be able to proceed into Lanikai. You will not be able to turn left onto Kalaheo Ave. Just more reiterating that for the general public. If you're coming down Kailua Road towards the beach, you will only be able to go into Lanikai, not turn left onto Kalaheo Ave.
Correct.
Yeah, you have to
The other
do
big
do a
change is if
U-turn
you,
somewhere down the road.
we are recommending and we are telling everyone to turn into the Kailua Beach Park and turn around and come out that way. That is our only location that we are suggesting to turn around. The other change is if you're coming down Kalaheo, where right now you could pass in front of Kalapawai Market to go into Lanikai, you will be detoured into the roundabout. So you will have to yield coming into the roundabout, and you will have to yield to those when you're coming up Kailua Road if they're in the roundabout. So this movement in the roundabout, which was closed for the last, I don't know how many months, will be open. So that will be a little getting used to again.
All right, well, we understand and we do appreciate the holiday break especially for the immediate neighborhood. Any other questions for Shane? Evan Weber.
Hey, Shane. Thank you for the update on the bathrooms. Stoked to hear that you are looking into the soap dispensers still. I will email this to you, but I also looked into the soap dispensers a little bit, and it did not take me too long on Google to find anti-vandalism steel soap dispensers. The most expensive of which are about $200. So let's say installation, etc. Buy the nicest ones. You don't get any bulk discounting. Cost $250. 216 bathrooms on the island of Oahu. There's one soap dispenser in each bathroom. That equals about $108,000. And DPR's budget is $108 million. So this is about 0.1% of the budget. So I believe you can do this. I believe we can have soap in our bathrooms. I believe in public services. I believe that our beaches and our parks are very prosperous for the county. They bring in a lot of tourism. So I think this is a worthwhile priority. Other counties in Hawaii do it. So I don't know if it can be done this year with the current allocated budget, but I imagine $108,000 is possible to fit into future budget requests. So I'll send you this over email. You can pass it along to DPR as well, but just keep looking into it. I believe we'll have soap before I die.
Okay, I'd like to ask the Parks and Recreation Committee to take a look at your data and consider making a recommendation.
That'd be great. Most of this data comes from them, except for Googling vandal-proof soap dispensers.
Evan, I'll dangle a carrot as well. We're in need of a new chairman of the Parks and Recreation Committee. But please think about it. All right, Gary Weller.
I hate to be the one to keep on mentioning Kapaha Quarry Road, but it's getting more dangerous than it's ever been before. During the flooding period, the road had to be closed because you're not allowing the vegetation to be cleaned off the side of the road, so it could not drain. All the construction workers and people that pay high rents to be in the industrial park were not able to get to work. I've complained about the Kapaha Quarry Road probably for close to 10 years now. The vegetation is almost over my head. There's a dangerous curve there when a garbage truck or one of the big giant transfer trucks come around the corner. You cannot see them because the vegetation is so high. I'm going to hold the city responsible, and I'll testify in court if anybody dies on that road that for 10 years I've been warning the city to fix that road. The white line in the middle of the road, you can't even see it on rainy days. So it's about time that somebody does something about that road. And I'm getting really tired of every single meeting complaining about that road. So I don't know what you can do, but I'm up to here. Thank you.
I will pass it along as I always do, but I completely understand your frustrations, Gary.
Shane, I sent an email to Jim Ireland earlier this week. Mayor Blangiardi also in the call into the mayor's segment on the Rick Kamada show this week. There were two separate discussions on issues with Kapa'a Quarry Road that the mayor fielded. So perhaps the mayor is attuned to some of these issues with the overgrown foliage, the flooding that closes the road periodically, and with the large trucks on the road not having a visible center line is also a danger. All right, thank you. Other questions? Any questions from the audience for Mayor Blangiardi's rep? Okay, mahalo, Shane. We move on to Governor Josh Green's representative. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. False alarm. As a subset of the mayor's report, we have a special update on the CIP stormwater improvement project. We originally were scheduled to have a presentation on it this evening, and due to various schedule conflicts, this will happen in February, our meeting February 1st. But we are grateful that Randall Watamoto is from the Clean Water Branch is here to give us a bit of an update, so we will be well primed for February. Mahalo.
Thanks, Chair Hicks, members of the board, and members of the public. So I'm Randall Wakamoto. I'm the program administrator for our stormwater quality division within our Department of Facility Maintenance. And we've been asked to come in and provide a little update on what the project. And first want to thank Vice Chair Kiana for securing those funds that is intended to be used towards capital improvements to try to help improve water quality within your community. So we are working on a project right now. We currently are putting designs together. We haven't, we're still at the early stages. So that's why initially told Chair Hicks that we'd like to be able to present a more formal presentation in February, in which we expect that we'll have something more substantial. Right now, we just have more of the topographic work. We've been identifying, we're looking at a particular site. This is on Akiohala Street. So there's two drain lines that are running in that area. One is 18-inch, another is 30-inch. And basically what we're looking at placing in that area is a large underground treatment structure. Basically what is a separator unit that looks like a large cylinder. It can hold quite a bit of water. It's going to be actually allowing the water to flow through the pipes, but then through that mechanism, what it does is it traps and captures a lot of the debris, the trash, as well as the sediment. And it also has built-in baffle walls that were allowed to at least also capture any kind of petroleum hydrocarbon, sorry. So our intent is we're going to be designing this project along Akiohala. In addition to that, we're also going to be placing what we refer to as green stormwater infrastructure. So this is using more natural methods. So we're putting in some type of like a depression that's off of the side of the roadway where it allows soil, rocks, as well as plants to help uptake a lot of the pollutants that run off the roadway, and they'll be directed into these planter areas. So that's what we're currently working on. We're also still looking at some other sites along Keolu Drive. However, we're running into some challenges in terms of the siting as well as the existing utilities. So that's why that project is probably going to be deferred for a later part of it. But at this time, we're focusing on this area along Akiohala Street. We're also working on, in the start of the new year, we will be having a public website that we're developing. So it should be available where we can provide updates on this particular project. And it will allow for the public to be able to share input in terms of some of their suggestions and thoughts, because we do know that there are some other areas that the community is interested in, which case we will assess those. We'll take a look at it. It's just that we do have a certain timeline that we're working on currently, in which case we do need to get this design and completed in order to go out to select and solicit a bid by somewhere around right around this time by next year. And so we're working on a pretty short timeline, so which is why we're focusing on this particular project. And we're trying to ensure that we can get all the necessary reviews that are done within the city and in order to secure whatever permits. So we do have a meeting internally within the city in order to do kind of like an over-the-shoulder review with all the various departments. This includes our Department of Design and Construction, Department of Facility Maintenance, Department of Transportation Services, as well as the Department of Planning and Permitting, just to kind of walk them through this project. And as we progress through it, we're hoping to kind of expedite the review and things. So again, thank you for letting me share. And so any questions that you might have?
Well, mahalo. We appreciate this preview, and we're greatly looking forward to the February presentation.
Yes.
Are there any questions? Donna Wong.
What types of permits are needed?
So for this particular project, because we're working in the city roadway, it would basically be a trenching permit. That's what's mainly required. So that's within the city's Department of Planning and Permitting. So we're not having to go and coordinate with other agencies like within the state or federal government.
David Laya.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is a question for you, but I'll throw it out there. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with the construction project that's happening on the Kaneohe Community Garden area in Kaneohe Park. That's a $4 million project that the city is planning. The demolition of all of our garden plots, the 60 garden plots that are there, and to do something relative to stormwater improvements. But I'm not sure how that demolition of all of the garden plots would somehow improve the stormwater situation. Can you comment on that?
Well, just a little more briefly, because we're not the ones overseeing that project. It is the Department of Design and Construction that is overseeing that project. It was identified as a priority site under our program, because what we did was we looked island-wide at different potential erosional areas. And in this particular location, we know there's a steep slope that's sort of surrounding that community park. And so that was the original impetus, was to address the erosional improvements on that slope. However, as part of that, and I think with engaging with the community as well as within the Department of Design and Construction, as well as within the Department of Parks and Recreation, that was where it was sort of identified and decided how they were going to also do other improvements within the facility themselves. But it is also to help improve the facility, but also mainly to address the erosion that's occurring along those slopes.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Please use the mic.
Thank you for coming. I have a question about the cleaning of the storm drains. At this point, it seems that there is not a regular set time at which those get cleaned or inspected or repaired. And it sounded like we were going to be relying on individuals reporting certain storm drains that were in need of cleaning or repair. At this point, do you want us to come in as individual citizens and say which storm drains we think need to be cleaned for that to be activated, for there to be a process developed for cleaning them?
No, thank you for that comment. And I would say that definitely we are not asking anybody to go inside any of the city storm drains, but if you see something, then definitely report it to us, to our department. We have a regular schedule for inspecting the city storm drains. We have it based on a priority-based schedule. And so typically we're going island-wide. So this is not just in this community, but island-wide where we're inspecting on a certain schedule depending on the priorities. And so at that time, when we do inspect it and we observe that there is a lot of debris and blockages and things, that's where there will be some type of a work order that's generated in order for the Department of Facility Maintenance to schedule a crew to go out and maintain those storm drains.
Lavani Lipton.
Thank you for coming from Kapolei to be here. This is an issue that's very, very important. I want to keep it on the radar. This sounds like a very big undertaking. I'm not even sure how long. Do you know how long it will take before this project is actually concrete, like built?
The one that I'm talking about right now?
Yes.
So right now we're at what we would consider to be a conceptual design, which is 30%. And then from there, I think we'll be likely probably at a 60% by the earlier part of next year. And then from there, what we're targeting is to have our designs, everything starting to get the permits and everything before, I would say we're right around October, because that's our deadline that we need to get everything finalized. And then from there, then handing it over to our Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, where they can then post it out for bidding.
So we're not talking until like 2025, 2026.
Well, we can't say exactly when the contract will get executed. We do know that it will need to get executed by June 30th of 2025. And then from there, then we need to be able to get the contractor to come out and actually mobilize and do the work. So that's likely going to be sometime in, say, early or probably in the second half of 2025 or early 2026.
Okay, because I know there's a timeline for the funds because the first set of funds expired. But anyway, I was just curious to know like when this will actually
Yeah,
happen
so
because
that's
there'll be
exactly-
more storms before then. So that's my concern. And then also please, on the radar, very important to keep in mind where everything comes into. So like the starting point is the Kauopa Silt Basin. And we've been advocating for that for years to try to get something retrofitted there, like a small berm created. That was one of the suggestions that came out of the Water Quality Committee. And so that along with the storm drains and the regular cleaning, even though this is a project that's a very big undertaking that's supposed to help mitigate, the city should not be off the hook for the storm drains and the hardened channels and the silt basin.
Well, thank you for that comment. And we are aware of that location. Our design team is also looking at that location because of what the concerns were. Do recognize that it is in a major drainage way. So that's where it does trigger a lot of permitting, whether at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, the Department of Health, having to go a lot of studies. So when thinking of those kind of environmental permitting requirements, especially in the sensitive area where there is a sort of a wetland in the downstream area, you're looking at minimum 3 to 4 years just for the permitting alone. So that's why with this type of funding that we're working under, we needed to do something much quicker. And just to answer your question earlier is that the funds that were earlier identified, we were able to secure those funds. It's just that we needed to focus on first the design portion of it. So in order to start working on the design, that's what we're doing now. And then what the funds that's currently available right now, we're using it towards the construction.
Yeah, Kailua Silt Basin is major, and it's a major component, as I understand it, of the drainage system. And some of the focus has been to restore it to its intended function. that over the decades, it is not effective because of changes and erosion in that area. And hopefully, the permitting process to repair an existing feature to full functionality, hopefully, I don't know how this works in the real world, but from a bystander perspective, it would seem as though restoring an important feature back to its intended function should be easier. It's a repair. It should be easier in the permitting than creating a new feature. Would you agree? Or is that too pointed a question?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, I mean, with the regulatory requirements in place that, you know, because of where it's located, how it's serving and functioning, that because it is a major drainage way, so where all the water that's coming from above is coming through that basin, and so it's going to be flowing through a channel, obviously that goes into Enchanted Lake. And in between that also, there is a wetland. So I don't think you can avoid all of those regulatory requirements. It's going to still require that you have to do all these studies and having to do all these type of permitting. But I also want to point out that that basin itself, we would definitely would like to see it restored to its natural functions and being able to be reconstructed and done to the extent that it's actually benefiting the community. The issue is that it's all privately owned. So the city doesn't own the basin. It's actually under a private owner. And so that function and that responsibility would fall under that.
Yeah, I know, but I think it was previously publicly owned and wouldn't that be part of the conveyance to continue the function? Anyway, that's too deep. I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie Lipton.
So the section closest to the Hardin Channel that runs by the skateboard park and into the wetland, that's owned by the city. So there is that strip that everything feeds into and downstream that's owned by the city. Also, we helped put in the request for the funding. So I do want to give a shout out to the community who worked with our council member to get you this money. And we put in the request, I think, Esther, we did that, what, in 2021? That was the first CIP and then the second one. And so by the time this project is done or maybe done, it's still going to be 5 or 6 years. So, I mean, this is environmental impact to our most beautiful feature, which is Kailua Bay and public health and public safety. So I don't buy that excuse that it's going to take too long to get the permits, so we can't do the project.
No, thank you.
Donna Wong.
Yes, can you just, if it's privately owned, how come the city hasn't requested the owner to maintain it?
Well, it's not really for the city to, because what it is it has to, at least if it's still functioning, meaning in a sense that it's not contributing or causing the flooding issues. That's the limits of what the city has. So if it's blocking the city's portion that where it needs to flow into, the city can require an owner to maintain that portion. But however, in this area, the city's portion is on the lower portion of it. That's where the city actually does maintain, and they do clear it out periodically to remove any overgrowth and any blockages that could occur to allow that free flowage of water.
So it's going to stay in limbo because the landowner isn't cleaning the basin and the city doesn't have or won't require the landowner to clean it because it's silted up way up to half. And so that the water just can't flow as freely as it should.
No, I understand. And well, the agreement that it's in place right now is it's a flowage easement, basically. So as long as there's a free flowage of water that's coming through, that's what the responsibility of what the owner is, you know, under that agreement. Yes, they are intended to maintain it on a periodic and regular basis. However, the city's part of it in its jurisdiction is when it ties into the city portion of its drainage system, which is on the lower portion.
Yes, Randall Hugh.
And I want to tell you something, the lake is private. It's owned by Enchanted Lakes Resident Association. It's privately owned. And it's owned that way because when Bishop Estate built Enchanted Lakes, the last parcel that they were stuck with after they sold the fee was the lake. Enchanted Lakes started out with the parcel number 3, which is the lake. 4223, that's the parcel for the lake. It's the remnant parcel of all of it. So Bishop Estate proceeded there. And when they got approval from the city, they sold the lots. They sold the fee simple interest. But then they were stuck with the lake. What do we do with the lake? Yeah. It's actually a liability. It's not an asset, right? Because they the lake. They cut the mountains around it to fill the lake so they could build the houses on. And so in the end, after they sold all the lots and they're stuck with the lake, came up with a simple idea. Let's find a group of residents who live around the lake and they can buy it for $1. So they bought the lake for $1. They want to charge us $300 a month or a year to live on the lake because they say, you owe us. And that's one of the reasons why I complained 4 years ago, because I said, I don't owe you any money. I own my property. You own your property. The fact that you got talked into taking the lake for $1, how come you paid $10 though to accept the pond drainage agreement, which is the agreement between the city and Bishop Estate? And it said, we need you guys to allow the lake to drain into the ocean. All the storm drains are going to drain into the lake. And you're going to accept that. You're going to accept the condition from the city, which we signed back in 1963. We signed an agreement with the city that we promise to allow the lake to let all these storm drains drain into it. And we will take care of the lake, and the city will take care of the storm drains. Well, but now Bishop Estate doesn't own the lake. Enchanted Lake Resident Association owns the lake. They're the private owner. Now, I think they told you guys they're going to dredge part of the lake by the bridge a couple of years ago. They haven't done it. And I think the reason they haven't done it is there aren't any contractors willing to take on the liability. Because what happens when you drain that portion of the lake and the properties that are around the area that you dredge start collapsing? That's a real potential problem.
Okay, mahalo.
But in any event, the city is stuck because they agreed with an owner that the owner would maintain the lake in perpetuity and allow the drains to go in there, except
Right.
Bishop State no longer the owner.
Right, and the city has obligations as well to minimize the pollution that goes into the storm drains.
Yeah.
Screens have been put in, filters, 110 screens in the Enchanted Lake area, many filters. That was the earlier discussion about cleaning them so that they remain functional. And there has been some forward progress on enacting no parking areas within Enchanted Lakes for more effective street sweeping. We're looking forward to that project becoming a reality as well. Mr. Burke.
Good evening, Randall. Thanks for coming. Excuse me, I wasn't listening clearly, I think. You have 3 projects. The first one is on the drainage way that is adjacent to the Kailua School, or is it the drainage that's under the road?
Are you referring to the Akiohala?
Akiopala, that's the road that goes up adjacent to Kailua.
Leads up into Kailua High School, the back
Yeah, yeah.
entrance, correct?
And where is this structure that is being designed?
It's more towards the upper portion. So we're trying to avoid, of course, trying to minimize the impacts to the residents, making sure that we're able to look at what the drainage and the upstream drainage that ties into that location. It's actually a very large, undeveloped slope that comes down, and we see on there, there's an inlet structure that's capturing all the water that flows down that slope. And we actually know that there is quite a bit of sediment that comes down there because we've actually cited one of the adjacent owners for doing some work to clear out that part of that slope.
Yeah, I think we turned them in for you.
And so,
And the second one, some green infrastructure, and I missed the third one altogether. What was the third?
so the other ones are along the main road of Keolu Drive. That's more by Keolu Elementary School where the skate park is located at.
Right.
So that area has some site constraints. Also, there's a lot of utilities that we're having to navigate through. So that one, they're still looking at it, but then right now it's not something we can quickly proceed with.
What is it they want to do there?
Similar that we're looking at different type of green infrastructure, but also looking at underground treatment structures with the existing drain lines. Those ones are a little bigger. There's about a 42-inch drain line in that area. And it actually ties into that area where I think you guys are all pretty familiar with. There was a sinkhole along Kanapu'u Drive. So in that area, that drainage that comes down that slope.
Okay. I want to reiterate what several other people have said here, is that if we can fix the sediment capacity, retention ability of the sediment basin, and it's called a sediment basin, it's not called a drainage structure, although I agree it does act as a flood control structure, that would control drainage from like 500 acres, whereas these other projects control drainage from less than 10 acres each probably, and I agree they would be effective. Another option I think that you should actually look at, probably instead of the green infrastructure, would be to put in more of the curb inlet baskets. One of your projects did install 110 screens on drain inlets and then 35 baskets inside those drains. We found them to be very effective. When we checked them, they were all full, overflowing actually. And I know you have people who go out and check them on a regular basis now. But installing more of those, you already have the plans, already have the specs. Getting 300 of those put in instead of just 35 would be very effective and probably much, much more effective than green infrastructure because of the limited area that we have in this community for green infrastructure. And the last point is that I know that permitting will be more difficult on the sediment basin, might take 4 years, but we might be talking about this 4 years from now anyway. So when you come back and talk to us in February, could you bring with you the DPPs for the private land, which the city can research and get, find out what their responsibilities are for that property, and bring with you an engineer who can speak to the conceptual design that we sent your office last year?
We can definitely bring up that. So they are aware of it. They have been looking at that proposal. Obviously, we're working on this project, but then they're also looking at that one. And they do have somebody that's going to be coming in, speaking more about what are some of the issues and things that we would have to address in order to move that type of project forward. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And then just to kind of go back to what you mentioned. So we did put in those screens as well as the inlet filter baskets. So we put in about 30 of them, like you mentioned. Just keep in mind that the unit that we're looking at for this Akiohala project, it's about a 6-foot diameter structure, and it has about a 2.2 cubic yard storage capacity of sediment. That would equate to more than 80 of those catch basin filter baskets. So just to put that into perspective, one unit can service more than 80 of those catch basin filter units alone. And all it does is it requires that you do maintain it by using a Vector truck to suck up what's inside of it. And so from a maintenance perspective, it is a lot more in line with how the city currently maintains a lot of its infrastructure versus with the baskets, it requires a lot of manual labor, which of course we all know that, the city is always challenged with having to fill all of its vacancies and being able to get out people to maintain those type of systems. But yeah, thank you.
Randall, thank you so much for coming tonight. There's a very extensive preview of coming attractions. We appreciate it.
Yeah, but yeah, again, like we said, we'll come in on, I guess it's the February 1st meeting. We'll do a formal presentation, and then we'll do a much more, if allowing, we'll do a much more in-depth presentation at the following week at the environmental subcommittee, the water quality subcommittee. So yeah, we can spend a lot more time in going over the details and the drawings and things like that.
Okay, mahalo.
Thank you.
Speaking of time, we've got elected official reports, 2 presentations and 2 motions yet to address this evening. Governor Josh Green's representative, Aaron Connor. Sorry for the false start earlier.
Good evening, Aaron Connor, representing Governor Josh Green and the state this evening. Some follow-ups from last meeting. We had a clean water branch, lots of questions on clean water branch. I did email the response to Chair Hicks because it's quite lengthy, so I don't want to take up time reading that for you, but Chair Hicks received that earlier this afternoon. There were some questions regarding Ho'okipa Cottage at the Women's Correctional Center and the project there. The Ho'okipa Cottage is the most visible from the road at WCC, but there are several projects ongoing right now. The cottage construction is complete. Utilities are the last thing being worked on at Ho'okipa Cottage, and the Public Safety Department expects to plan a grand opening, blessing of the Ho'okipa Cottage within the next month or so. Renovation of the cottage and construction of adjacent multipurpose support buildings will provide a new living environment for residents that will emphasize rehabilitation and normalization while providing life skills for a successful transition out of custody. It was designed as a work furlough center with mini dorm configuration for 64 beds. The board may also be noticing other projects progressing on the campus. Steady progress continues in a new administration building, housing unit, visitation and intake building. WCCC is being transformed so women who are currently awaiting trial, housed in the crowded and aged OCCC can be transferred to Women's Correctional Center when the construction is complete. There's an update from the Department of Agriculture on the little fire ant. HDOA expects to hold statewide public hearings on Chapter 4-72 rule changes in January 2024. The rule changes propose to give HDOA enhanced authority to stop the movement of infested plant material intra-island and inter-island. Once the hearings have been completed and the testimonies aggregated, the issue will be scheduled for consideration by the Hawaii Board of Agriculture, and those board meetings have been the 4th Tuesday of the month. Agendas are posted online. In the meantime, HDOA is preparing to establish an emergency interim rule to be implemented in January 2024, which will enable the department to limit inter-island movement of infested plant products.
Okay, and we have an individual motion later this
Yes,
meeting.
I did see that, so I'll make sure to pass that along to the department once it is voted on by the board.
Okay.
3 more quick follow-ups. There was a question about 7.5 million appropriated to Kailua High School athletic facilities that was in this past year's budget. However, that's appropriated for fiscal year 25, which means after this next budget cycle, then the governor will take into account all of the CIP requests and then proceed with releasing those. So not till next year will that be eligible for it to be released. And finally, 2 additional CIP projects have been released. There was $7 million for plans and acquisitions in Monowili. I believe DOFA has come to the board to talk about their new project there, but just know that the plans and land acquisition money has been released by the governor. And that project is a partnership with several federal, county, and nonprofit organizations. And lastly, Governor also released 3.6 million for safety improvements for the county for Department of Transportation Services Safe Streets project. Pedestrian and other modes of transportation safety improvements. I'm sure DTS will provide an update to the board once that project moves along, but that money has also been released by the governor.
All right, mahalo. And yes, the Clean Water Branch responses have been emailed to all board members. Are there any questions this evening for Aaron Connor? Donna Wong.
Can you tell me how many trees were removed in building the new facility, the new buildings?
At the prison?
Pardon?
The building, which new buildings? At the prison?
Yes.
Okay, I'll find out.
And not, I don't need the small ones, just the big ones.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions online? Audience questions? All right, mahalo, Aaron. We move on to elected official reports, starting with Representative Natalia Hussey-Burdick.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Give me just a moment to share screen. All right. Sorry I couldn't be there in person with you today. I appreciate the hybrid, continued hybrid Zoom meetings. I found out that that is actually more difficult than it seems when I did the invasive species town hall. The added element of having the people on Zoom able to hear the people in the room and vice versa makes it really hard to do. But thank you to everybody who participated in this, everybody who came to this, everybody who watched it on Zoom. If you missed it, I do have it posted on YouTube. So there's the QR code there. I can send you the link later. And I just wanted to throw up this map of, these are the known LFA infestations from September. It has grown since then. So we've got several active infestations in Olamana, Manawili. We've got Kaimalino, Lani Kai that Representative Martin has been kind of helping to get under control. So this is a solvable problem. We just all need to test our houses. When you test your house, mail the sample. It's right here in Kailua to the Oahu Invasive Species Committee. They'll get back to you really quickly with the answer about what kind of an ant it is. It's really great. You may remember that we did a site visit of the Women's Community Correctional Center. We brought one member of the Kailua Neighborhood Board, Amber Granite. We brought Tadia Rice, who runs a post-incarceration rehabilitation program. We brought Senator Keohokolole and Senator Lee were with us. And we mostly wanted to know about the new cameras because you guys had those questions last time. They do have several new buildings under construction. So those new buildings have really new state-of-the-art digital cameras that are going to be in use as soon as they set up. They have recently awarded the camera contract to CML Security. And so this contract, it's been awarded, but they're still working on the finalization. They expect it to be done next week. This contract is to repair and maintain the existing cameras in the existing buildings. They're kind of in disrepair. Some of them are broken. Some of them don't have sound attached. And then so the third kind of facet to the camera upgrades is that they're using ARPA funds to expand the existing systems and to link the old systems with the new systems once they come online. And it's possible they may be able to use those ARPA funds for the existing RFPs that they have, but after they talk to the attorneys about it, if they need to, they're gonna set up a new RFP very soon, he assured me on the phone today. I believe somebody had asked a question last time about the new incoming prisoners from, I think OCCC are going to be, they're scheduled to come to Women's Community Correctional Center once they have those new buildings online. They're expecting a little over 100 new inmates. The DOT has put out a traffic safety survey. I highly encourage all of you guys who are complaining about crosswalks, speed humps, the different things that we just heard in the community concern segment please take this survey. They will be using this survey to tell them where to put any more speed humps, perhaps other traffic calming safety measures. So it doesn't matter if it's a state or a county road, but this is set up by the state DOT, but you should please fill out the survey. Again, I can email it to you if you just contact me. And the last thing I want to touch on is that wildfire prevention working group. You might remember that we proposed a draft report on November 1st. We had that public hearing on November 17th, and we are almost ready with our final report. We've been working in some of the public comments and making a really good report. We've made it better for our, which will be released on December 15th. And it's going to kind of be used as a guide to not only shape future legislation, but also for all of the departments and agencies to use as a guide as they kind of, as we move forward through our new normal. Again, to find those reports, you go to capital.hawaii.gov/house.aspx. You click on the Wildfire Prevention Working Group, and it'll just be listed right there under documents on the 15th. And that's all I got for you. Thank you so much.
Okay, mahalo. Questions for Representative Hussey Burdick? Online? Okay, mahalo. Natalia?
It looks like we've got a raised hand from Gary Weller.
Gary Weller.
That extra 100 prisoners, do you have any description of what violations they've done? The women's prison over here. Go ahead.
Right, that was the question. So they have different levels of security at the women's prison. And so they're going to be integrating that new population into the old population based on their security. So like basically like, I forget their actual terminology, but it's basically like minimum security versus like maximum security. They have a word for that, I forget. Sorry. So it's all kinds is the answer, unless it comes to the level of where they would need to go to the state hospital.
Right, we were briefed on this. All female inmates will be going here and will be assigned to different sections based on security needs.
So
okay,
on the,
mahalo.
Wait, the camera thing. Is there going to be a civilian component to it this time so that if some civilian organization wants to review when there's, you know, when the rumors start that somebody got raped again by a guard and the state wants to keep it a secret. So that's something I was considering talking to you about, is that there should be some kind of a review board or something that looks at that, that's not part of the state. So just, I've heard other states do that. So just
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the new digital system will involve digital storage. And that's one thing that I want to look at the actual contract and see how long they're going to be storing those videos. And then there may be privacy concerns, but it is possible that we could submit a public records request for something like that. Let's talk offline about it. That's a really good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've got 6 more elected officials. We have 2 work presentations and 2 motions. So we need to kind of be expeditious. Representative Scott Matayoshi. Senator Chris Lee. This is how we be expeditious. Representative Lisa Martin.
Aloha, I'm going to slow you down because I'm here. So I wanted to talk to you folks. For some reason, my video is not showing up. There we go. Okay. So little fire ants. You guys are sick of hearing about them, I'm sure. I'm actually sick of dealing with them. But I just wanted to give you a little update on what's going on in our district. So there's actually an infestation in Kailua Bluffs, which is adjacent to Kailua Hills. And that is in a kind of in a circular area. And going out to, just with sticks and peanut butter, we identified additional houses near the ones that were known to be infested, But this is something that the Hawaii Ant Lab really can't do alone. right? They need to get permission and contact information for the houses in the areas of concern. We've had amazing community volunteers, neighbors that came out with me and went door to door, but it's really hard to find people all at home. They're not all at home. And even if they are, and you have a great conversation with them and they let you do a peanut butter test, then you find out later that they didn't fill out the form for Hawaii Ant Lab online. So I just really want to ask everybody to, to help Hawaii Ant Lab, help the government do their job, right? We're using our taxpayer dollars and they really can't do it alone. If they can get in touch with everybody and treat everybody at the same time, they can wipe it out, which is amazing. So we need to do our part. In Lanikai, we have literally hundreds of homes that are infested, including the Bluestone condominium area. And so we did a much larger survey there last weekend. It was supposed to be a 2-day survey. They were rained out on Friday because ants hunker down in the rain. So they had to do it all on Saturday. So I ended up helping them all day. And I can tell you it is very hard on the back. But still there, we don't have all of the houses participating. So it's really a matter of, should this come to your neighborhood, or if you know people in these areas, we need to coordinate with the government and get it done. The beach area that the public has access to, the Mokumanu Beach Access in Lanikai, which is kind of the beginning of the canoe club area, that has been treated by Hawaii Ant Lab a couple weeks ago, and the beach access as well, and all the backyards right by there. So that area is going to continue to be treated every 6 weeks for a year, so that at least our public space will be safe and we don't have to worry about ants being transported and all that watercraft and canoes out to the offshore islands. The next thing I wanted to mention is Kailua High School. I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but their field lights have been out, which is a big deal, not just for the Kailua High School, but also for the Kalaheo High School football team, as well as band and the girls and boys soccer team. So they've been making do with renting, pretty expensive, renting temporary lights and holding games during the day or at other schools instead of at Kailua. They're going to have to make do for graduation, possibly having graduation earlier in the day, which will be no doubt very disappointing to families that are working at that time. The lights, repairing the lights and replacing those 6 poles, they have a design that was finished in September to do 5 poles and the lights and the wiring. And that is going to fortunately come out of the DOE repair and maintenance budget, instead of waiting for another round of CIP next year, which would delay the project even more. Hopefully it will be done by next Christmas. And that's with the DOE actually allowing our high school to benefit from their existing budget. It's a big project. They're going to look to see if the poles, which are corroded, are in immediate danger. And if they are, they'll take them down before they can do the actual rest of the project just for safety.
Lisa, that your 3-minute buzzer went off about 2 minutes ago.
Okay. I stand by for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Representative Martin this evening? Okay, thank you very much.
Can I make one last comment?
I just wanted to quickly mahalo Rep. Martin for all her work on the fire and issue. I'd say more if we had more time, but she deserves a lot of credit for her great work.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Bill, can I make one more comment that is related to one of your motions that you recommend, resolutions that you folks are voting on tonight?
Yes, please.
I really appreciate that you folks are looking at the camping at Kailua Beach Park. I want to reiterate that the easier and better solution would be to establish hours, as we have in all the other parks, city parks, and that I understand that our board members do not live next to that park, so they are not personally burdened by the problems there, but please have a little empathy for HPD, for the park maintenance people, and for the neighbors that live around there. That would really be the right solution. Thank you.
Okay, mahalo. Senator Jarrett Keohokalole. Councilmember Esther Yaina.
Kailua Christmas lights. Thank you to Auntie Lei, who is sitting in the first row. She had to leave to care for one of her ohana, but she contacted the mayor's office. And so I've been working in concert, of course, with some of your board members, Bill Hicks and Gary Weller. And so we had to assess where the lights will be and whether the electrical outlets were working. As well as making sure we had people to put it up safely, as well as have lights, because we have no lights. So A and B will be donating the lights. We have secured the triangle area, and there are 6 trees on the median going to Starbucks that we hope we will be able to put up. The cost prohibitive nature is actually those who put it up. So I don't want to tell you what they paid, but it was over $10,000 that it took to put the lights up previously. So I just want to thank the board members. So we're hoping that it's going to happen as soon as possible. Second, Bill 10 from 2022 has been reintroduced as Bill 64 2023 to re-trigger the 2-year clock, the lifespan of amending Article 5 of the land use ordinance. It's a major effort to reform the land use ordinance. The last time was 30 years ago. We are on the use sections. So I want to let you know that in January, I will be having an informational briefing by the Planning and Economy Committee, which I chair. And I expect to be working on the residential use category in likely February and March. I have a couple of others before we get to agriculture, which I know many of you are interested in, and that I'm looking at the May to June timeframe, and that's my report. Does anyone have any questions?
Donna Wong.
Can you give us an update on what's happening with the proposed affordable apartments?
Which one? There's several.
On Kailua Road, the old gas station.
That one has not been, I have not gotten any updates. I'm just assuming that the developer is still trying to determine the financing for that. But my understanding was the original intention was to have all affordable housing units subject to the Bill 7 process that you're well aware of. I haven't heard anything else about that. For my part, as you know, I did not, oh, I'm so sorry. But can I answer questions?
Please.
As you know, I was deeply disturbed about the Bill 6 that just passed the city council because it was trying to fast track the Bill 7 projects by having them bypass the DPP review process and allow them to self-certify. So I included a high threshold for those developers who could qualify. And that includes some Kailua developers who are able to meet that threshold. But I actually don't know more about that. I do know for our city affordable housing project, which is on Kihapai, I think they are targeting the beginning of January to put out an RFP for a developer.
Okay, can you also tell me if she's been approved for, the building has been approved for 60 feet?
No, nothing has been presented yet. She has to put her package together. I will tell you, because I'm not aware of that developer meeting the threshold for that amendment that I put through, they will not likely be able to self-certify under the current processes. You have to have had 2 successful DPP projects approved for Bill 7, and you would have had to secured a certificate of occupancy. It's very, very high threshold. And right now, there aren't too many developers to meet that threshold. So this is, I believe, the developer's first Bill 7 project.
Yeah, my understanding is the application was submitted, in fact, nearly a year ago, but DPP has not acted on it.
Well, they're not acted on it because I don't believe the developer has determined the complete parameters of the project and the financing.
Okay, so,
they don't-
so it's an incomplete application then.
I don't
Okay,
believe that it's under active consideration, and I will follow up to find out if, but I think people will let me know because they know that I'm concerned about Bill 7 projects. I am asking the Office of Council Services to do some research on all sustainability plans so I can do a comparative analysis of all the maximum heights to understand if Ho'olaupoko is one of the only ones who did the 60 maximum, because I understand for
40.
I am 40 maximum, but yeah, I'm sorry, for 40 maximum, because others are higher. And the reason, as I mentioned in the last meeting, is that because of what happened regarding Bill 6, there were other members who were very empathetic to what I was talking about, to see whether or not there should be reconsideration of the applicability of Bill 7 projects to Ho'olaupoko. But out of fairness, you need to look at all of the other plans, right? Yeah. And it's a difficult feat, but I just want to let you know I'm doing the research.
well, we appreciate all the diligent work you've done on this. Mahalo. Jade Lau.
I promise it's a quick question. Wailepo Street.
You know, I got to find out. I haven't heard the status on that, nor any complaints. I did get a complaint about the Kihapai Street being all dirty, being used as a dumping ground. So I contacted DLM and they're cleaning it up. But do they still have graffiti on Wailepo?
Mm-hmm. And it is I will say that the individuals that are using that to live in are very respectful because they're pretty quiet when they go in and out. But I have just happened to be driving down the street and witnessed it like at odd hours. So there are people accessing that
And living in there?
I can't say that they're living there, but they're definitely entering and departing from there.
Okay, got it.
So
I will put in a request to the managing director's office to have someone do an inspection over there. Thank you for letting me know.
thank you.
Okay, mahalo, Esther. Kendra Oishi, representing Representative Jill Takuda.
Good evening, Chair, members. Kendra Oishi, I am the District Chief for Congresswoman Jill Takuda. I won't take up too much of your time. You should have gotten a December monthly report that we circulated. And
We did.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And just a couple things to point out. On Wednesday, December 13th, we are having a teletown hall. So that's where basically it's a town hall over the phone. People would be able to ask questions. So their information can be found on our website. We also sent an email around, or you could call our office. And one other thing to highlight is Congresswoman introduced the CARE Act, which is a bill that would provide mental health, substance abuse, and crisis counseling services for first responders. So just wanted to highlight those things. Everything else is in our newsletter. Questions can be, I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you.
Well developed newsletter. Any questions? Okay, mahalo. Next order of business are reports from members who attended other meetings. Are there any reports? Okay, we'll move on to our presentations. Aaron Kubo from the Real Property Appraisal Officer at the Real Property Assessment Division will describe the Honolulu tax assessment process. Aaron?
Hi, my name is Aaron Kubo. I'm the Real Property Appraisal Officer for the City and County of Honolulu Real Property Assessment Division. I was specifically asked here by Board Chair Hicks and the Kailua Board to answer some specific questions that was proposed to our office. Before I get into that, the Real Property Assessment Division, as an overview, what we do is we administer the provisions within the Chapter 8 of the the revised ordinance of Honolulu relating to the assessment of real property for tax purposes. We have a website available forward-facing to the public, which is www.realpropertyhonolulu.com. We encourage every taxpayer to go to our website. What you can do is you can search your property records to see if there's any discrepancies that you have with our office, bring it to our attention, and we're more than willing to help you guys out and try and fix it. Coming up December 15th is our new assessments going to be mailed out for the 2024 tax year. You can also file an appeal online during our appeal period from December 15th through January 15th of 2024. If you find that your value isn't in line with what you think it should be. You can find forms to file a home exemption on our website, various dedications. You can also register to receive your real property assessment notice electronically, download any fillable forms. So to get into what Board Chair Hicks and the Kailua Neighborhood Board wanted us to go over, the first question posed to us was, Kailua Neighborhood Board would like more transparency from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services with focus on assessed valuations on land that it believes should be more stable in times of valuation increases and decreases. So our office is tasked with following the revised ordinances of Honolulu, ROH Chapter 8. Chapter 8-7.1 states that the RPAD, Real Property Assessment Division, shall cause the fair market value of all taxable real property to be determined and annually assessed by the market data and cost approaches to value using appropriate systematic methods suitable for mass valuation of real property for ad valorem tax purposes. What this means is that since fair market values are derived annually, we as a division, RPAD, cannot arbitrarily keep values stable. We cannot ignore valuation increases and decreases that happen through the market. So that's going to be like the sales happening in your folks' neighborhoods. If sales go up, assessed values will go up. If sales go down, they'll go down. Second question, does BFS have a policy that assessed values lag market valuations? Does the City and County of Honolulu have a policy that valuations for ad valorem purposes are 80 to 90% of market value? No, the city does not have such policies. As indicated by the previous slide, ROH 8-7.1 mandates that the Real Property Assessment Division shall cause the fair market value of all taxable real property to be determined and annually assessed. Furthermore, ROH 8-6.1 states that all real property shall be subject to tax upon 100% of its fair market value determined in a manner provided by ordinance. The third question posed to us was, why do some properties have significant building value variation up and down? For residential properties in general, RPAD utilizes the sales comparison approach to arrive at a total assessed value. Please note that the assessed land and building values that are available on our website are broken up into separate values for exemption purposes only. In general, assessed values fluctuate up and down depending on the market sales of properties similar to the subject property. As part of our assessment process, RPAD will compare the total sales price of comparable properties and make adjustments to the subject for market-derived differences, such as square foot living area, land differences, grade, age, condition. We adjust all of those to arrive at a total assessed value. The abstraction appraisal technique is employed when distributing a land to building component value in order to be as uniform as possible. Our department performs a total value assessment of the subject property. Land is a component, but is not the only adjusted value. So I wanted to stress that what we do is a total valuation of your property, right? And then the land and building components are broken up for exemption purposes. So just like a private fee appraiser, what they'll do is they'll take sales in your general neighborhood, in your area, and they'll adjust for all the market differences: square foot living area, land square footage, grade, age, whatever the fee appraiser might want to adjust for, right? So they take the total sales price and then they adjust it accordingly. Fourth question is, explain the significant variation in assessed land value assessments per square foot for the properties located on the 4-2-61 plat in Kailua. Why are there significant variations between properties directly adjacent to one another? In general, a per square foot value will decrease as the land size increases. This is due to the economic principle of marginal utility. When applied to property valuation, it is defined as the increment of total utility added by the last unit of a good at a given point of consumption. There are two categories: diminishing or increasing marginal utility. For our office, land valuation, the utility per square foot decreases as land sizes increase. On a per square foot basis, bigger parcels are valued at a lower per square foot. However, the total overall value will be higher than smaller parcels. Parcels also within that neighborhood are not identical. Neighborhoods can be comprised of hundreds of parcels that differ in land sizes and may have adjustments applied individually for things such as easements, shape, topography, view, just to name a few. What is the authority underlining the concept or principle of diminishing marginal utility? So as I previously stated, the definition of marginal utility when applied to property valuation is defined as the increment of total utility added by the last unit of good at any given point of consumption. For more information on this topic, you can go and reference any of the following publications: The Appraisal of Real Estate by the Appraisal Institute, the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal by the Appraisal Institute, Property Assessment Valuation by the International Association of Assessing Officers, Fundamentals of Mass Appraisal, also by the International Association of Assessing Officers. The last question posed was, lakefront land values should be higher than non-lakefront land values. My office can confirm that the land values for individual lakefront properties are higher than the land values of non-lakefront properties. Again, on a per square foot basis, it may appear that non-lakefront properties are valued higher, but this is due to the law of diminishing marginal utility. If you take the average size of lakefront properties, it's around 10,000 square feet, and the average size of non-lakefront properties is about 7,500 square feet. Again, as property sizes increases, the land value decreases. I mean, you can take it like bulk shopping, Costco, right? You buy in bulk, it's cheaper per unit. It's a similar economic principle that gets applied to property valuations. The last slide is contact information. If you guys have any specific questions about your specific properties, I highly recommend you call our office. We can go ahead and get into further detail for your specific properties. Yeah, you guys have any questions?
Okay, mahalo. Questions?
There's a sheet of paper right there. I'd like to comment on that.
Hang on. Any board member have questions? Gary Weller?
I have a couple questions. I got involved with all this over the years because I see all kinds of anomalies when I go on the city system and I look at the assessed value of a property. So I'm going to use one example, and this is all about timing. So you assess a house here in Kailua. Maybe the last time you assessed it was 5 years ago or whatever you did. And then that house turns around and sells for 2.4 million. Your assessed value on that house was only 1.1. So you were off by 1,300,000. So do you not have enough staff to keep the appraisals up to date? Or is there a statutory time that you have to reevaluate every property on the island? So should we give you more funds and more appraisers to get this done? Because if that house had a value of where it was really supposed to be, the city wouldn't be as broke as it was, because the assessment would be higher and they would have been paying more property tax. And I've seen this anomaly over and over again because I'm so involved in looking at different properties in terms of other reasons, zoning and other things. I just happened to look at the assessment and I go, that's insane. You know, the house just down the street sold for this, and that house's assessment was years ago. So I would like to find out how the system works in terms of updating assessments to meet that fair market thing that you were just talking about.
Okay, so there's a few questions that you posed to me. Do we have enough staff? Currently, we have approximately about 43 to 45 appraisal staff to handle about 320,000 parcels on the island. Another question you posed was whether or not, or what is our time frame for reassessing properties? We annually assess all properties on the island. Every single year, we send out the assessment notice every December 15th. To get to your specific question about a property in Kailua that sold for 2.4 million, maybe assessed at 1.1 million or thereabouts, why is there such a discrepancy? Legally, we are only allowed to assess what is legally permissible. So part of that requires DPP permits to be involved. If there are no permits, there's nothing for our office to go out and check. Everybody does possibly illegal additions or some sort of renovation that doesn't require permits. And our office won't know about it until a property sells or until the property owner brings it to our attention, which is why we're asking if you guys want to be, more responsive or whatnot, to go to our website and let us know that your property description may be off. That's one way that'll help us out. If you're asking how much staff we would need to go door to door to every single property, 320,000 properties on the island, I will just look to possibly looking at a fee appraiser, a private appraiser. How many properties can they get to daily, weekly, monthly? And then you can divide that into 320,000 parcels. And that's probably the amount of staff I would need to physically go out and annually reassess fairly accurate. But as it stands, like I was reading through my presentation, we annually assess using mass appraisal techniques, and we have to be as uniform and as equitable as possible, given the constraints of valuing 320,000 parcels with a staff of about 43 appraisers.
So if the mayor was aware of this, maybe we should be giving you more money to have 100 assessors, because the revenue that you would be achieving would be hundreds of folds more than what it would cost for you to do this job properly.
I will leave that to the mayor to decide. All I can say is, with my staff, we do audits and everything like that. So our assessed values compared to the sales that came in throughout the year, they're well within our 10% appeal threshold, 10% of market value appeal threshold. So you might be picking out an outlier that possibly could have had illegal additions added onto it or something that our office does not know about.
Well, the house that I'm talking about is one of my
Uh,
neighbors, and they did nothing to the house for 10 years. They bought the
Okay.
house, they held the house, they sold the house, they did nothing to the property. Matter of fact, the only thing they did at the very end was paint the house because it hadn't been painted in 10 years.
Okay,
So,
if you'd like to provide the address or the tax map key, we'll ask the division to take a look at that individual case. Are there other board member questions? Jade Lau.
I have a really basic question. You keep referring to the law of diminishing marginal utility. Do you personally understand how that works?
Yes.
Okay, then if by answering yes, you understand that the law of diminishing marginal utility is used to measure items that are consumed and used in unit consumption. Please explain to me, how is land used in unit consumption? And how is land a utility in this situation? Everywhere I have researched, the law of diminishing marginal utility is not a nationally or federally recognized formula for tax property assessment. It is an inappropriate use of formula to gain a number. Land is not diminishing. Land is not a consumable item. So please justify me why you think this is the best way to formulate our values.
So as an economic principle, what that law, diminishing or marginal utility. So I broke it down to two categories. The law is actually the law of marginal utility. There's two categories. There's diminishing and increasing marginal utility. If you take any buyer of a home, a property, if you will, as those properties increase, the added utility that each additional square foot, that's utility, that's the utility you're talking about, each additional square foot, the value of each additional square footage decreases as it increases. You might pay $1 million for the first 5,000 square feet, right? You add on another 5,000 square feet. Are you going to double it? Are you going to pay 2 million for that? That's the diminishing part. In the market, market-driven evidence dictates that people do not double the amount they're going to pay just because the land size doubles. There's a marginal decreasing dollar amount that each additional utility that provides you with.
We are one of the only states that uses this formulation for property tax because land is not consumable. That is the issue at hand. And yes, I am one that believes you should pay for every square foot. If you buy 5,000 square feet, you pay for 5,000 square feet. Guess what? If you buy the lot next door and now you buy 10,000 square feet, you should pay for 10,000 square feet. You shouldn't get a break because you decide you want to buy more. It's not a consumable product. It is a static, still item. It doesn't, you don't grow land, you don't diminish land. Value is subjective.
Correct. Value is subjective.
So using a formula that doesn't fit the item that you're valuing is the crux of the issue here. We just make up formulas because they seem to work for somebody. It doesn't matter that they don't work for the homeowners or the landowners.
Other board questions? Evan Weber.
Yeah, I just want to say that my understanding of the question of marginal utility is that this is what's happening in the actual market. And so when the land sales are happening, when the property sales are happening, I think what Aaron's saying is that the observable market trend is that 10,000 acre plots are not selling for double the price of 5,000 acre plots unless there are other things happening on the property other than just the land that would make that the case. And I just want to say that I would not want the property tax department to start not following the diminishing marginal law of utility, because what that would mean is a significant property tax increase for many landowners across Oahu. And I think that I doubt that that's what anybody here is asking for. So I just want to make sure that we're not advocating for those policy changes to increase property taxes.
Other board questions?
I'm curious. It just
David
puzzled.
Laya.
Sorry, I'm puzzled because it seems as though there's a licensed professional appraiser industry out there where people are paid to do real estate appraisals on the value of their property, taking into account the size and marginal utility and all the other factors that you're talking about. And it seems for some reason the property tax division is deviating from that and using this explanation of diminishing marginal utility to sort of back in their values. And why aren't we using standard practices, best practices that appraisers who get paid to do this and licensed and certified to do this, why can't we use a similar methodology instead of this marginal utility methodology? It seems to be very disparate.
So you're speaking to single property appraisals, correct? Fee
I'm talking about a methodology.
Mhm.
If
So-
we have a certain methodology
Single
that's
property appraisal
considered,
methodology, while similar, it does differ than mass appraisal methodology. So we have to appraise a group of properties at the same time, being uniform and as equitable as possible, using.
I understand
appraisal
that. I thank you for
methods and
thank you for sharing that because you shared that earlier.
Right.
But the point is the process and the policy is to use your mass appraisal process until somebody comes up with something that clearly defies that process. And then you guys are supposed to take a hard look at that and come back with something that actually makes some sense in this industry, right? So you can't just go back and say, hey, marginal utility says that our numbers are justified. You should be adopting some of the appraisal techniques that are licensed and certified and be able to use those techniques to adjudicate whether or not there's some legitimacy to this claim and not justify it with this marginal utility explanation. So if in fact there is this disparity between the way the valuations are being determined, then let's hear it. Let's talk about it in the context of a licensed certified process for this, as opposed to this broad system.
Okay, I'm going to inject here some perspective based on an independent look at facts. I took a look at the sales in tax map key 4-2 between January 1st and September 30th, as reported on the city's website. 4-2 covers probably a little more than half of Kailua. There were 66 sales. In the aggregate of those total 66 sales, the total sales price was just under 5% higher than the total of all the assessed values. And that 5% sales price higher than what was assessed October 1st last year probably can be explained in the aggregate by inflation. So it seems as though in the aggregate, in Kailua in tax map key 4-2, the appraisal assessment process has matched pretty well the sales data January 1st through September 30th of this year. So I just want to put that out there as a fact for perspective. Okay, we'll continue. Are there other questions?
Why can't we adopt certifiable appraisal license practices and policy and practices to adjudicate this particular case?
So all of the mass appraisal methodology and techniques that our office utilizes are recognized by the Appraisal Foundation, the Appraisal Standards Board, and the AQB, the Appraisal Qualifications Board.
Okay, I'm going to move on because I think Mr. Hugh has a question.
These are 4 properties on 2 plats. Get my glasses. And what it shows, using the law of marginal diminishing utility. So there's 1269 Upau Street, 7,564 square feet. Your assessment was $1,089,800. There's another lot on the same plat, 78, parcel 108, 1428 Kupau Street. It's 19,000 square feet. And using your method of calculating the assessment, well, gee, that value is less than the one that's 7,000 square feet. What's wrong with this picture? That's your method. That's the law of marginal utility that resulted in this calculation. And there are two parcels like that. There are 2 plats like that. My point, though, is I only found that for my own neighborhood, plat 61, and I looked at every single owner. And I went to your database, got the name, the tax deed, the address, land, assessed value per square foot, and I divided it by the parcel land area. And every parcel owner got a different assessed value per square foot. And then I organized all those parcels from largest lot to smallest lot. And the largest lot was being assessed at $130 a foot. They were 11,000 square feet. The ones that were 10,000 square feet were assessed at $140 a foot. So there's a pattern here, and I graphed it. But then when I graphed other plats, I found different tiers going up, down. It's not consistent. You're not being fair and objective to the people on my own street. Can you explain that?
So I don't have access to our records right now, so I wouldn't be able to address these specific properties tonight. Yes. Okay, there are numbers from our database, but I'm not at my computer right now. I don't have access to, like this big parcel, this 19,787 square foot parcel, it could have a downward adjustment for whatever reason. I don't have access to that right now, so I wouldn't be able to answer your specific question, which is why I brought up at the beginning of the meeting. If you have specific questions about specific parcels, call our office. We're more than happy to discuss.
You guys kicked me out of the office. When I came in to apply for my appeal this year in January, your boss asked me to leave. He kicked me out.
Yes, we asked you to leave because you have ongoing litigation with our department and the city.
But I'm not suing anybody. I'm appealing, it's not suing.
Man has filed a tax appeal against the city county of Honolulu tax appeal court. He's not allowed to have any contact with city employees while the pendency of that litigation goes on. It's the only reason why
I want to tell you something about the state. The state is 2.5 years behind on appeals.
Okay, Okay, we need to cut it off here. And thank you very much for the presentation this evening. I know that there are questions, and we can maybe corral those questions and forward them on if you would like to, if you're able to look at some specifics.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, I will happily receive additional specific questions, compile them, forward them. Our next presentation is Akahi Elementary proposed energy resiliency improvement. And Dr. Montera, I really apologize, but we really have to get the 2-minute version.
Okay, sounds good. Shannon has the slides, so I don't know if you can make her on the screen. But I'm Candace Frontier. I'm a school renewal specialist. You click on Shannon's slide. She has the screen share. Shannon, can you screen share? Shannon Tanabe Clark is our PE and health teacher from Akahi Elementary School. We are here because we're proposing an energy resilience project, and we're asking the board to provide support. So go ahead and share a slideshow. Okay, so if you could guess how much we pay for energy every month at the school. Next slide, Shannon. If you guessed around $14,000, that was last year monthly, even before installing air conditioning. So we know that energy keeps going up. Next slide, Shannon. You can make it full screen, maybe. We also know the state has a goal of reaching 100% renewable energy, and we believe we should use our government properties to take the lead. So in this vision and in this spirit, next slide, we are applying for a Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program grant. Eligible for this because it's designed to improve community infrastructure supportive of military installations in order to enhance military value, installation resilience, and military family quality of life, which we have a lot of military families in our community. Next slide, Shannon. So this idea started in 2021. We're currently refining our proposal. We're going to submit in June 2024 with a target date of completion 5 years later, 2029. Next slide. It's a big dream, $14 million. Next slide. Because we are proposing to install 2 areas. One, a covered play court. Akahi Elementary School has no sports facilities. You'll look at like Kainalu or Kailua L. They have basketball courts, volleyball courts, but Akahi Elementary students do not have that in their field. They have to apply to use the Parks and Rec and walk over with their students to a public facility to play basketball. So this would be adding to the military family value of life while also generating power over the covered play court, as well as installing parking lot carport covers. Next. So this is the concept that we had sketched up by parent volunteers. We're very excited about it. And on the back, you'll see the storage for the power, as well as on this side, a stage. Next slide, Shannon. And so we invite stakeholders to contribute feedback, ask questions, contribute skill sets for our community, and consider joining our design committee, which is meeting quarterly as we prepare to submit our proposal. Next slide. And so we're asking kindly if the neighborhood board would consider supporting our proposal and also submitting any feedback and considerations we should be taking into this conversation as we prepare our proposal for the next step.
Well, this looks fabulous. If we can help by providing some endorsement or support, I would refer this to our Transportation and Public Works Committee.
Thank you.
Normally they would meet next Thursday, but they're off. So
no problem.
They'll meet the second Thursday in January.
Okay, we have till May, so we're just getting ahead of the game.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
Sorry that was abbreviated. We have board business. There are 2 individual motions. The first one involves Kailua Beach Park camping. Would someone like to make this motion? Kate Ryder,
Sorry, what was that?
would you like to make the motion regarding Kailua Beach Park camping?
Yes.
Is there a second? Levani Lipton seconds it. If you could please stop the screen share. Kate, would you like to introduce this motion? I'm not going to read the entire motion. Everyone has had the opportunity to do so. Would you like to introduce the motion?
Yes, as we heard today, there's a lot of concern about the houseless issue in Kailua Beach Park. And I understand this was a precursor to before talking about closing the park, because there are existing rules and regulations to control people staying in the park overnight, especially building structures, which for me is, a particular concern, that the rules, I feel like we don't need to create new rules or regulations that may or may not also be enforced when we have existing rules and regulation that very clearly state what is and isn't allowed in our parks, especially overnight. A lot of the concerns that people were bringing up were also, noise violations, dogs off leash, and those are also existing laws. And so this is just a motion saying, hey, we have these existing laws and we would like to see them enforced, especially when there are direct resident concerns about the issue.
All right. Is there any discussion? Donna Wong.
Would you consider an amendment to include hours for the park to be open? As Rep. Martin suggested.
I would be open to that. There seemed to be a lot of hesitation against that in the previous conversations, even though the park hours would still allow people to transact to pass through the park, so to do fishing or things like that. So I mean, I would not object to it, but I guess it's a question of whether other people would be.
Our history is that we previously had two tracks that were looked at about a year ago, and one was changing the park hour, and the other was, these are the published rules in ROH, request that they be enforced. And my sense is that let's take them separately.
Okay.
Other
Yeah,
discussion.
the idea behind this came specifically from the conversation at the last meeting where the HPD said specifically, oh, some of our police officers feel, like that they can't enforce it because of the tents. And so this is just to emphasize and highlight the fact that it doesn't have anything to do with tents. It has to do with camping and sleeping and remaining in the park overnight for this extended period of time.
Evan Weber.
Yeah, so just want to first of all say, express my compassion to the residents who testified. Nobody should have to be subjected to threats of violence in their own community or sexual harassment or anything like that. I also just want to express my compassion for the houseless community here in Kailua and across the island. Obviously, we have a very serious housing crisis, and the families impacted by it are disproportionately Kanaka Maoli and generational families. So I think that's important to acknowledge as well, that there are large outside forces, multinational corporations, housing trends, some of which we just discussed, that are putting people in these positions. So I did want to just ask members of our board, particularly our housing committee chair, Levani, or sorry, Homelessness Committee Chair Levani, and maybe Josiah, if he has any thoughts too, just folks who have worked on this issue a lot, if there's anything that you wanted to say to that component of this problem in terms of our compassion for the houseless, and if there might be anything that should be included as an amendment in this. It seems like you guys had a very substantive meeting recently from the minutes, so I just want to think about that side of this as we're considering this issue.
David Laya.
I just want to bring attention to this section, the bill that you shared with us. It's section 10.1, 10-1.1 definitions. And it says very clearly, camp or camping means the use and occupation of a public park as a temporary or permanent dwelling place or sleeping place between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. So if there's camping occurring, the police should be enforcing the no camping rule. I mean, it's very clear. I don't know what the ambiguity is with that regard. It's very clear. It's within the hours of 10 p.m. You can't have a permanent or temporary dwelling place or sleeping place. It's stated in section 1.
Correct. Other discussion? Luani Lipton.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious on what Josiah's thoughts are on this, but you know, as the chair of the subcommittee that focuses on houselessness, we always embrace compassion. But in this particular case, you know, if there is camping, it sets a precedent for more and more folks to come and use it for that purpose. And so I am going to support this motion coming forward. There are places, one of the things that came up at our meeting that Evan was alluding to is that there are a lot of programs and places in our community, and there is a need for more residential beds and the pipeline all the way from the prosecutor's office out instead of having folks go to jail to place them in rehabilitative programs. And so, you know, I have personally a lot of empathy, but as a paddler and someone who spends a lot of time during paddling season at the beach park, I'm very uncomfortable with children on bikes, mothers with strollers, anyone who has a right to be walking in the park and enjoying themselves. I'm concerned for their safety if our park becomes a magnet for folks who have aggressive behavior. And that's not to generalize and say that all houseless people are that way, but this is a widely used park, and I am concerned about public safety. And there are other areas for folks to go ahead and stay overnight. I don't believe that our beach park should be that place.
Okay, Claudine Tomasa, 1 minute, please, if possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I agree with Levani, and I will be supporting this motion, but I would like to make sure that it is enforced. HPD enforces the ROH as soon as possible and not wait another year.
Correct. This letter, if the motion passes, it'll be a letter that goes to HPD. Gary Weller, 1 minute, please.
Whatever happened to the Laura Thielen Parks Recreation guards that were going to be hired, the rangers that were going to control the parks?
Yeah, that's a separate program, and we don't have an update on that right now.
Okay, thank you.
John White.
Thank you, Chair. It seems like Kailua is a specific park that doesn't have camping sites. So my question is this: Wamanalo Beach Park, same issue. Alamwana Beach Park, they just camp right outside the damn fence on the side of the road. What's the difference? You know what I mean? We got to come up with a better solution. I just don't want this to force us, the local people, that use the park for good reasons, like looking at the stars, catching crabs with the kids. Now we're unable because of these knuckleheads. So just take that into consideration, gang, when we're voting on this, because we'll never be able to turn it back around once we do.
Yeah, this particular motion is referencing everything that's already published. So it's not a change from anything. Any other discussion? Okay, I call for the vote. We'll make it a roll call vote. Josiah Cow? Abstain. Travis Council?
Aye.
Aye. Amber Granite?
Abstain.
Abstain. Kellyanne Kobayashi?
Yes.
Yes. David Laia? Aye. Jade Lau?
Aye.
Mike Lee? Abstain. Lavani Lipton? Yes. Carol Miyashiro? Kayala Morel?
Yes.
Yes. Kate Ryder?
Aye.
Aye. Claudine Tomasa?
Yes.
Yes. Steve Trecker? Yes. Evan Weber? Abstain. Gary Weller?
Aye.
Aye. John White?
Abstain.
Abstain. Donna Wong? Yes. Jeff Suckernick?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. The motion passes 13 yes, 0 opposed, and 5 abstentions. We have a second individual motion regarding what was discussed earlier, encouraging the Department of Agriculture to immediately enact emergency rules on inspections for invasive species. Would anyone like to make this motion? Steve Trecker, second. Jade Lau.
Second. Oh, okay.
Discussion? No discussion. Online? Okay, I call for the vote. Josiah Cow?
Aye.
Aye. Travis Council? Aye. Amber Granite?
Yes.
Yes. Kellyanne Kobayashi?
Yes.
Yes. David Laia? Yes. Jade Lau? Yes. Mike Lee? Yes. Lavani Lipton? Yes. Carol Miyashiro? Kayala Morel?
Yes.
Yes. Kate Ryder? Yes. Claudine Tomasa?
Yes.
Yes. Steve Trecker? Yes. Evan Weber? Yes. Gary Weller? Gary Weller?
Yes.
Yes. John White?
Aye.
Aye. Donna Wong? Yes. Jeff Suckernick?
Yes.
Yes. Chair votes yes. Motion passes unanimously with 18 votes. All right. Approval of minutes. Any corrections to minutes? Hearing none, the November 2nd minutes are approved. Committee reports, all chairs stand by their reports. Okay, no exceptions to that. Committee membership motions, any changes to committee membership to entertain tonight? None. January committee agendas are due December 24th, Christmas Eve. This meeting is adjourned at 10:01.